Chapter 396. A year ago, Long Zishan didn't use any of his family's martial arts skills. But like a cat playing with a mouse, he tortured Long Xiang until he ran all over the martial arts practice field. A year later, he used the Long family's unique movement technique, fist technique, and palm technique. In the end, he was completely suppressed by Long Xiang and fell to the ground in 2 moves. To Li Qingyang and the others, it was nothing more than a normal operation for their junior brother to do this. After all, he was only 1 or 2 stages lower than them. However, to the direct descendants of the Long family, it was absolutely shocking. Long Patian was so excited that his hands were trembling, and the happy expression on his face couldn't be hidden no matter how hard he tried. If it wasn't for the fact that the competition was still ongoing, he would have definitely turned around solemnly and bowed to Jun Changshao. His son was useless in the Long family and suffered humiliation from his own clan. As a father, he saw this and felt pain in his heart, but he couldn't do anything about it. If every direct descendant of the Long family wanted to establish themselves in the Long family, they had to become stronger. Weak. They deserved to be bullied. This kind of family was very cruel and heartless. But it was also because of this that the direct descendants didn't want to be bullied and ignored by the higher-ups. Only by constantly becoming stronger could the Long family gradually become stronger. In a world where martial arts were respected, it was about the survival of the fittest. Later on, the Long family's patriarch could no longer hold it in and could only accept the second elder's suggestion to send Long Xiang to manage the family business. Although he would be mediocre for the rest of his life, at least he wouldn't be bullied in the family anymore. However, Long Patian never thought that Long Xiang would run away from home, join the Iron Bone Sword Sect, and bring sect leader Jun and a group of senior brothers back before the family competition. Even more unexpected, today in the martial arts practice field, with absolute strength, he defeated one of the strongest direct descendants of the family, Long Zishan. Looking at his son's back, he recalled the scene of him squatting alone in a corner and burying his head in his legs every time he was bullied. The Long family's patriarch's eyes gradually moistened. At this moment, Jun Changshao handed him a tissue and said, "My son has made a name for himself. This is a matter of crying tears of joy. As someone who has experienced it before, I can understand." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji and the others were stunned. An experienced person? Could it be that the sect leader had a child? He didn't have a damn thing to say. He was just trying to give Long Patian a way out of this embarrassing situation. Sect Master Jun Patriarch Long did not take the tissue. Instead, he said seriously, "It is my son's blessing to be able to enter Iron Bone and be trained by you." He had said something similar before, but it was nothing more than pleasantries. Now he was being sincere. Jun Changshao said, "I also want to thank the Long family head for giving birth to such a talented and hardworking son, allowing me to be proud of him." Boom. On the martial arts practice field, Long Xiang kicked down Long Zishan, who was unable to get up from the ground, and then walked out under everyone's gazes. On the way to the Long family, he had thought about how to torture the people of the same clan who had bullied him before. He also thought that it would definitely feel good. But when he really experienced it, he realized that it was just that. The main reason was that he was too strong. There were no twists and turns, so he felt that it was not exciting enough. The competition continued. Long Xiang continued to fight, and defeated the direct descendants of the Long family in the top 8 and top 4 battles. As his opponent was not as strong as Long Zishan, he won easily. Not long after, the final battle of the strongest group began. This kind of battle that determined the champion was usually the most exciting. It was even normal for 2 participants to fight for 3 to 5 rounds. However, in the strongest sect of all time, especially with Iron Bone disciples participating, they did not take the usual path. Bang! 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 When the finals began, Long Xiang used exploding fist and mountain-splitting palm consecutively, and began to beat up the direct descendants of the Long family. In the end, the 4th cousin was unable to withstand it. He was beaten until he staggered back and sat down outside the martial arts practice field. The corner of the Long family's mouth twitched. Actually, When Long Xiang defeated Long Zishan, they already knew that the most valuable large competition's champion was already in his bag. But who would have thought that after the entire battle, that guy didn't even pant? This was definitely a crushing defeat. Ding! Side quest completed. Congratulations to host for obtaining 500 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points. 16005000. Jun Changshao laughed. After Long Xiang applied to return home and told them about his tragic background, the system gave them a side quest. The content was personally witnessed disciple Long Xiang winning the large competition of the Long family. The battle of the strongest group had ended, but that did not mean that the large competition of the clans was over. Long Xiang strode onto the martial arts practice field, pointed at a direct descendant of the Long family and said, "Come on stage and fight." There were many direct descendants who bullied him in the Long family. Although some of them were also in the strongest group, they were not matched, so he naturally would not let them go. The corner of Long Xi's mouth twitched. Although he knew that he couldn't beat Long Xiang, he still walked up with a bitter face. In the Long family's large competition, if a direct descendant of the same clan declared war, even if they were weak, they would still have to fight. This was a rule that had been set a long time ago. Bang bang bang. The moment Long Xi went on stage, he was immediately taken care of by Long Xiang's fists. By the time he was sent flying, his face was already swollen like a pig's head. Long Ziming, come on stage and fight. Bang, bang, bang. Not long after, the direct descendant of the Long family called Long Ziming was also brutally beaten up. Then his entire body twitched as he lay outside the arena. An hour later, all the direct descendants of the Long family, who had bullied him a few years ago, especially during the large competition last year, were all called up by Long Xiang. Their entire family was lying on the ground in an orderly manner. Last year, during the declaration of war, Long Xiang was a punching bag, and was declared war on by the direct descendants of the Long family one by one. Now he was standing alone on the stage, beating up a group of direct descendants of the Long family like punching bags. Awesome. Too fucking awesome. The grievances that had been accumulated for a long time from being bullied by his clansmen were vented out by beating up his opponents time and time again. Not only did Long Xiang feel refreshed, he also felt that the entire world was exceptionally beautiful. However, it was not exciting enough, not satisfying enough. Long Zi. Just as he was about to call out the name of another direct descendant, he was suddenly interrupted. That's about enough. The voice did not come from the martial arts practice field, but from the inner courtyard. For a moment, all the direct descendants of the Long family turned their heads and saw a man about 20 years old leaning against the edge of the door, his face expressionless. Eldest cousin, everyone exclaimed. Long Patian frowned and said, "Isn't he in closed-door cultivation? Why did he come out at this time?" Jun Changshao also looked over and said, "This person seems to be quite powerful." The system said, Saint Grade Spirit Root, 8th Grade Martial Master. Saint Grade? Jun Changshao frowned and said, "This is a top genius who can compete with the Sacred Spring Sect's Gu Chaojiu." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others also looked over. If this wasn't junior brother Long's home ground, they might have forced their way out and challenged the top genius of the Saint Grade Spirit Root. Long Xiang's expression changed slightly. His eldest cousin was definitely the strongest existence in the direct descendants of the Long family. Although he had never bullied him before, he had never given him a good look either. "Of course," Long Zishuan said. "If you don't have enough fun, you can declare war on me." Long Xiang's brows relaxed, the corner of his mouth raised into a smile and said, "This way it will be exciting." Long Zishuan. He stood on the martial arts practice field, pointed at Long Zishuan who was standing in the inner courtyard, and said loudly, "Come on stage and fight." With that said, the direct descendants of the Long family and the elders of the Long family all widened their eyes. This guy, he actually declared war on the strongest direct descendant of the Long family. Long Patian was also greatly surprised, but when he saw his son's proud expression, he was instead incomparably gratified and proud as he thought to himself, This is my Long Potion's son. This is my Long Potion's direct descendant. To be exact, this was a disciple of the Ironbone clan. That's all for today. Thank you for your rewards. Please recommend me for your monthly votes. Chapter 397. The strongest group won first place, and then beat up the direct descendants of the Long family, who bullied him one by one. Although it was very satisfying, but Long Xiang felt that it was not exciting enough, not satisfying enough. Simply put, not a single one of them could fight. At this moment, the strongest direct descendant of the Long family, Long Zishuan, appeared and even said that if you haven't had enough fun, you can declare war on me. Facing his eldest cousin in the family, he was in the sky, he was on the ground, and he was even a weak ant. But now he realized that it was only SOSO. At most, his aptitude was higher than his, and his cultivation was stronger. Since that was the case, what was there to be afraid of? Long Xiang stood outside the martial arts arena, pointed with one hand, and the camera followed through a few hundred meters, landing on Long Zishuan and said, Long Zishuan, come on stage and fight. That voice, that expression, incomparably arrogant. Under the watchful eyes of the Long family, declaring war on the strongest direct descendant made his blood boil. And he also felt that it was very exciting. Seeing his son so domineering, Long Patian was not only gratified but also proud. Shua! Long Zishuan stepped on the complicated dragon wandering steps, dragging an afterimage as he stopped on the martial arts arena and said, After leaving home and returning, not only did my cultivation increase, I also became very arrogant. It's all right, Long Xiang said. When I was still weak, I was casually bullied by you guys, so I could only go and learn from you. Now that I have become stronger, if I don't show off, would I be able to live up to my experiences in the Ironbone? Seeing your brother Long, do your best. Lu Wanshur also knew that Long Zishuan was a strong enemy, so she waved her hand and shouted. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji and the others also gave their junior brother an encouraging look. To them, this kind of 8th grade martial master was also a powerful enemy. Junior brother going to fight with him would definitely be the greatest test. Jun Changshao sat firmly on the chair with a smile on his face. With the sect leader's gaze and the encouragement of his fellow disciples, Long Xiang's eyes flashed with an intense fighting spirit. Can we begin? Come. Who? Long Zishuan used dragon swimming steps and appeared in front of Long Xiang at an extremely fast speed. His fist, which carried the sound of a dragon's roar, punched out. As expected of the strongest direct descendant of the Long family, the dragon cry fist he used, whether it was speed or power, was much stronger than Long Zishan. Boom! The sound of an explosion rang out, and shockwaves flew in all directions. Thump! 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 Long Xiang took 6 or 7 steps back before he could stabilize his body. His gaze was unprecedentedly solemn. Long Zishuan's speed was too fast. Although he could catch him, it was difficult for him to dodge. He could only use his body to resist. Fortunately, he had gone through all kinds of tempering of his physical body. After receiving the punch, he was only pushed back a few steps. More importantly, he was wearing soft silk armor. The elders of the Long family were dumbfounded. Some of them were only 3rd or 5th rank Wuzong, and it was extremely strenuous for them to take a punch from Long Zishuan. Not only did that brat catch it, he even looked as if nothing had happened. Wasn't his physical body a little too strong? Shwa! Long Zishuan rushed over once again, using the dragon roar fist. The fist shadows and the sound of the dragon roar spread out in the martial arts practice field. Bang! 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 Long Xiang's strength was a little lower than his. Although he could dodge 1 or 2 attacks, it was impossible for him to dodge all of them. He was hit several times, and was pushed back to the edge of the martial arts practice field. Are you still arrogant? Long Zishuan asked. Ka. Long Xiang shook his head and shoulders. Enduring the pain from his body, he grinned and said, This is exciting, this is satisfying. Long Zishuan frowned slightly. Each of his attacks was more than 12 or 13,000 pounds. This guy should be injured after taking them continuously. Shwa! Long Zishuan attacked again. This time he used an even stronger dragon palm. Powerful palm prints instantly spread out, and the strength soared to 150,000 pounds. Shwa, 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 bang, bang, bang. Long Xiang was hit again. He was hit from one edge to another before he finally staggered and stabilized his body. Why didn't he dodge? Because he couldn't dodge at all. The gap between an 8th grade martial master with a sacred spiritual root and a 5th grade martial master like him was huge. The only thing he could do was to resist with his physical body. Eldest cousin is amazing. Look, that guy was quite arrogant just now. But now he's being beaten to the point where he can't fight back. A genius like eldest cousin would definitely be a core disciple in a first-rate or second-rate sect. Does he think he's qualified to declare war, just because he learned a few moves outside? The direct descendants of the Long family discussed with joy between their brows. Long Xiang's performance just now shocked them, and they couldn't accept it. Now that they saw him being beaten, they were naturally happy. Long Patian muttered, "My son, although you're not Long Zishuan, you've resisted for so long in the martial arts practice field. Even if you lose, it's still a glorious defeat." Even if he lost, it's still a glorious defeat? Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Patriarch Long, don't jump to conclusions so early." Long Patian was startled and said, "Could it be that my son has a chance of winning?" Jun Changshao said, "It's hard to say until the end of the battle. However, with my understanding of Long Xiang, he has a 99% chance of winning." Long Potion's mouth twitched. What was the difference between a 99% chance of winning and a 100% chance of winning? However, since Sect Master Jun was so confident, Patriarch Long couldn't help but think, could it be that my son really has a chance of winning? Under the suppression of strength, martial skills, and aptitude, he really couldn't figure out how his son could win. On the martial arts practice field, Long Zishuan didn't attack for the time being and said indifferently, "Your physical defense is not bad." Long Xiang's entire body was sore, but he endured it and smiled proudly. In the Ironbone sect, there are many senior brothers whose physical bodies are stronger than mine. Is that so? Long Zishuan looked at Li Qingyang and the others below the stage and said, "After defeating you, I really want to fight with them." "Sorry," Su Xiaoma said. "We never fight with people who lost to junior brother." "That's right," Li Fei said. "Someone who can't even defeat junior brother Long doesn't have the qualifications to challenge us." The two of them spoke arrogantly, causing the direct descendants of the Long family to be furious. Long Xiang, that brat, was clearly being tortured by his eldest cousin. Didn't this Ironbone disciple see that? "All right." Long Zishuan retracted his gaze and said, "Then I'll defeat you first before challenging your senior brother." Whoosh whoosh. As he spoke, a powerful aura emanated from his body. This aura was exactly the same as the move that the second elder had used to attack Jun Changshao in front of the hall. Dragon's roar of the 9 heavens. Eldest cousin brother is getting serious. Ha ha ha, that brat is going to be unlucky. The direct descendants of the Long family immediately laughed at his misfortune. The dragon's roar of the 9 heavens was a spirit energy type martial technique, and its quality had already reached the early stage of the supreme grade. In the Long family, the only ones who could comprehend this martial technique were the elders and the patriarch. Long Zishuan was able to cultivate it at the age of 20. It could be seen how powerful his aptitude was. Interesting. Long Xiang's lips curled into a smile. You can still laugh at a time like this? Doesn't he know the power of the dragon's roar of the 9 heavens? Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, Long Zishuan waved his hand and quickly spun in the air. The psionic energy that erupted also stirred up. Dragon's roar of the 9 heavens. Both of his palms struck out, and a dragon beast dragged its long body out of the energy circle with a roar. In terms of power, although it was weaker than the second elder, it could still be said to be powerful. As for the strength it carried, it had also reached 170,000 jin. This strength was comparable to the 8th grade Wuzong. The powerful dragon beast swept over. Long Xiang stood in place without moving. His mind entered the space ring and pinched the strength-increasing talisman that he had stored for a long time between his fingers. Pa! The talisman was crushed, and his strength skyrocketed. Ta! Long Xiang took a step forward, and the attributes of his body erupted. In an instant, his black hair fluttered in the wind. He angrily shouted, "You are not qualified to challenge my senior brother." Whoosh whoosh, the explosive fist cut through the void. Under the violent air waves, it seemed to have turned into a roaring tiger, pouncing towards the lifelike dragon beast. At this moment, dust flew, covering the sky and the sun. At this moment, when dragons and tigers fight, one of them will definitely be injured. Chapter 398. The moment Long Xiang raised his fist and punched over, the elders of the Long family all stood up in unison, their eyes filled with shock. That aura, that strength. It was definitely not weaker than Long Zishuan's dragon roar of the 9 heavens. Long Potion's expression suddenly became sluggish, and the muscles on his face also became stiff. My son is only a 5th grade martial master, but he can actually unleash a power that is not inferior to Long Zishuan's. How terrifying is this? Jun Changshao, who was sitting at the side, had a calm expression. Long Zishuan was very strong. He could not deny this. Among the disciples he had brought, only Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingchen could fight against him. However, this did not mean that Long Xiang did not have a chance to reverse the situation. If he wanted to win this match, he could only rely on the strength-increasing talisman that he had given him. Long Xiang, whose spiritual root had been upgraded to peak grade, and his cultivation had increased to 5th grade martial master. His normal strength was close to 80,000, and with a 2-fold increase in strength, he could naturally make up for the difference in cultivation between him and Long Zishuan. "Let's fight, my disciple." Boom! The explosive fist that contained close to 200,000 kilograms of strength was like a fierce tiger pouncing on the gathered dragon beast, ruthlessly tearing it apart. Thump! 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 Long Zishuan's figure explosively retreated, his expressionless face filled with disbelief. The blood in his body boiled, and he almost couldn't help but spit it out. If his move was broken by a stronger force, it would injure his internal body. A few days ago, Jun Changshao had used the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash to break the second elder's dragon roar of the 9 heavens. Shua! Long Xiang did not let him off, and used the cloud treading steps to rush over. His eyes flickered with a monstrous fighting spirit, and his entire person was like a rampaging tiger. "I'll chop! I'll chop, chop, chop!" Swoosh! 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 In an instant, crescent moons of energy dragged along streams of light, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Dragon roar of the 9 heavens is very strong? Then I'll show you today what a spirit force type martial skill is. If there weren't any restrictions, Long Zishuan could definitely rely on the dragon swimming steps to dodge all of them. Boom! 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 The crescent-shaped flowing light shot out like a cannonball. Spirit energy spread out, forming a lingering mist that filled the entire training field. The direct descendants of the Long family were dumbfounded. A battle of this level was definitely stronger than the previous finals of the strongest group. Shua! Long Zishuan rushed out of the fog. Psionic energy erupted from his body as he executed the Long family's martial arts technique again. What dragon wave fist? What dragon palm? As long as he knew it, he would use it all. Long Xiang relied on his iron bone martial arts to contend against him. The two of them instantly engaged in a fierce battle in the arena. Sometimes they would cross paths, and sometimes they would separate. The camera was also constantly changing. Bang! 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 In a short period of time, they had exchanged dozens of blows. As the fight became more and more intense, the spiritual aura that enveloped the martial arts practice field became denser and denser. In this battle, only then could it be considered exciting, only then could it be considered satisfying. Boom! The two of them exchanged another blow, and Long Zishuan was at a disadvantage. He took a few steps back again, and his expression became even more serious. Although he was proficient in many types of Long family's martial arts, Long Xiang's strength was stronger. If this continued, he would definitely be defeated. Shua! Long Zishuan raised his hand and bit his thumb. This, Long Patian and the Long family's elders saw this and suddenly widened their eyes. Long Xiang's expression became dignified. Although he couldn't cultivate the Long family's martial arts, he also knew that the Long family had the strongest martial arts called Illusory Tyrant Dragon Palm. Could it be that his cousin had already comprehended this martial arts technique that was infinitely close to the sacred level? Ho! At this moment, a majestic aura emerged from Long Zishuan's body and instantly transformed into an existence similar to a Dharma idol. Phantom soul? Jun Changxiao was surprised. The system said, "This is not a phantom soul. This is a profound spiritual force-type illusion technique." Ho! Long Zishuan's aura continued to release, and the illusory Dharma idol became bigger and bigger. In the end, it reached a height of 4 to 5 meters and stood in the training field, emitting a powerful aura. Illusory Tyrant Dragon Palm, he shouted angrily. Blood flowed from the thumb that he bit, covering his entire palm. He squatted down and slammed it on the stone floor. Ho! The Dharma idol behind him raised its right hand and pressed down on Long Ziang. The force and the air violently rubbed against each other, instantly forming an even thicker mist. Oh my God! My cousin actually comprehended the strongest martial arts technique of the Long family. The direct descendants of the Long family exclaimed. The Long family's elders were overjoyed. Long Zishuan, who was in his early 20s, comprehended the illusory Tyrant Dragon Palm. This was definitely a huge surprise. Long Patian frowned. When that palm pressed down, its strength had already skyrocketed to 300,000. As the level of the martial arts technique continued to increase, the explosive power was also unimaginable. For example, the supreme-grade illusory Tyrant Dragon Palm was already very powerful. Even Long Ziang, whose strength had skyrocketed, was inferior in front of it. Jun Changxiao thought to himself, the Long family really has a lot of martial arts techniques. Following Long Ziang to the Long family, he realized that although the disciple's strength was good, the sect lacked high-level martial arts techniques. Exploding fist and mountain-splitting palm were fine at the beginning. However, in front of a high-level warrior with many martial arts techniques, it was not enough. In the end, they could only rely on their strength to increase their attacks. With a critical hit, a normal attack was no problem. The key was not there yet. Therefore, he had to consider more about getting some high-level martial arts techniques for his disciples to cultivate. Actually, it wasn't that the Iron Bone didn't have any awesome martial arts techniques, such as the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame Slash, but they had just been spawned and hadn't been equipped with them yet. Ho! The palm print whistled down, as if Mount Tai was pressing down. When Long Zishuan used his strongest martial arts technique, Long Ziang could have dodged in advance, but he remained motionless. You mock me for not being able to cultivate the Long family's martial arts. You thought that I was not worthy of being a direct descendant of the Long family. Today, I will prove to you that even without the Long family's martial arts, I can still cultivate other martial arts and fight against those who have learned the Long family's strongest martial arts. Whoosh whoosh, the large hand pressed down like a dark cloud pressing down. Boom, the ground shook violently, and the stone slabs were instantly lifted up. The people of the Long family who had witnessed the entire process all widened their eyes and mouths, their eyes filled with disbelief. Long Ziang raised his palms to the sky, catching the falling palm. Above him, there was a stream of light lingering and enveloping his body, forming a defensive layer similar to a barrier. Iron Bone's defensive martial arts technique seal cover. Long Zishuan's expression was extremely ugly, but he raised his palm again and slammed it on the ground. The Dharma idol that had formed retracted its large palm and pressed it down again. Boom, under the pressure of the force, the stone slabs instantly shattered. Long Ziang used the seal cover to block the illusionary Tyrant Dragon Palm that weighed 300,000 jin once again. Long Zishuan's face flushed red as the blood in his body boiled violently. Ah! He shouted loudly and raised his hand to strike the ground 3 times in a row. Whoosh whoosh! The Dharma idol raised its large hand and also struck Long Ziang 3 times. Under the explosion of power, the stone slabs more than 10 meters around the martial arts practice field were all shattered. Wah! Suddenly, Long Zishuan spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale, and finally he sat on the ground. The Dharma idol behind him, as his mind weakened, instantly disappeared into nothingness. It's over, Jun Changshao said. Although the illusionary tyrant dragon palm was very strong, forcefully using it with the cultivation of a martial master would not only consume a lot of energy, but it would also bring a huge burden to the body. After 5 palm strikes, not only was Long Zixuan's body hollowed out, even his meridians suffered different degrees of backlash. Huff huff. He sat on the ground and lowered his head to breathe weakly. Ta! A pair of feet appeared in his field of vision. Long Xiang stood in front of his eldest cousin, who he had once regarded as the sky, and said, "You lost." Long Zixuan, who didn't even have the strength to raise his head, squeezed out a bitter smile with difficulty and said, "You won." Chapter 399. Long Xiang won, but he didn't feel good about it. Because Long Zixuan lost because he had forcefully used a high-level martial skill, and not because he had personally defeated him. In fact, from another perspective, to be able to withstand 5 attacks with the seal barrier and remain unscathed, it could be considered a victory. As soon as Long Zixuan said the words "you win," the battle came to an end. All the direct descendants of the Long family were stunned. The strongest direct descendant of the Long family had used the strongest martial skill of the Long family, but he still couldn't defeat that guy. This was simply unimaginable. Plop! Long Xiang sat down on the ground and grimaced. "Big cousin, your illusionary tyrant dragon palm is too strong. I almost couldn't withstand it." Long Zixuan, this guy was definitely acting to save some face for himself. Yes, Long Xiang sat on the ground paralyzed, giving his eldest cousin some face. After all, they were from the same clan, and there was no deep hatred between them. Even the direct descendants of the Long family, who were lying neatly together, were only beaten up by him, and did not suffer any internal injuries. Long Potion's tears flowed down his face as his hands trembled violently. My son won. He won against the strongest person in the younger generation of the Long family. At that moment as a father, he was proud. Jun Changshao laughed, and his sweaty fists relaxed. When Long Zixuan used the illusionary tyrant dragon palm, he looked extremely calm. But in fact, he was panicking inside, afraid that his disciple would not be able to withstand it. The system said, "This disciple of yours is weaker than Long Zixuan in terms of strength, but his physical body is far stronger. Furthermore, he used the seal barrier, so there is no problem for him to resist the spirit energy type illusion technique. Why didn't you say so earlier? It's not bad to make the host nervous." Fuck. The Long family's great competition had ended. Long Xiang had won first place in the strongest group, and defeated the strongest direct descendant of the Long family. At the same time, it also proved the Iron Bone's martial skill. Although its level wasn't high, it wasn't inferior to most of the Long family's martial arts. Sigh. In the courtyard of the West Courtyard, Su Xiaomo rubbed his hands and said, "I also want to fight with that saint-rank spirit root Long Zixuan." Li Qingyang shook his head. "This direct descendant of the Long family is too strong. If we don't rely on the talisman given by the sect leader, it would be very difficult for us to win." Yes, it was difficult for them to contend against Long Zixuan. At least, their physical body was stronger than the other party's physical body. High defense, sometimes it could also be considered an attack. For example, Long Xiang had exhausted Long Zixuan's energy by forming a seal barrier. Yi, who was sitting sat. S's, S. T. Why was the Night Emperor so confident? Tst. SSS martial arts. Long S longs longt. S to uses longs. SSS. Do you have more than our Night Emperor? If it was Yi Xingqian who had fought with Long Zixuan earlier, he would have been dazzled by the use of all sorts of martial techniques. Unfortunately, this was the Long family Long Xiang's home ground. It would be difficult for Night Emperor to show off. Son. In the study room, Long Patian said with his hands behind his back, "Don't go back to the Iron Bone. Stay in the family and continue cultivating." Ha! Long Xiang was dumbfounded. Long Patian said, "Father and the elders are old. It's time for you juniors to take responsibility. Father, based on your performance yesterday, I believe that no one will object to you inheriting the position of patriarch in the future. Long Xiang was stunned again. He had never even thought about being the head of the family. After all, the gap between him and his eldest cousin was too big. He didn't expect that his father would think so highly of him. Stay here. I will explain to sect leader Jun Long Patian said. Father, Long Xiang said. As long as I am a disciple of the Ironbone sect, I will be a disciple of the Ironbone sect forever. Please let me follow sect leader back to the sect to continue cultivating. That's right. The position of patriarch was very tempting, but Long Xiang had never thought about inheriting it. He only wanted to follow the sect leader wholeheartedly and live with his senior and junior brothers in the sect. Sect leader Jun can nurture you, but our Long family also needs a successor. Long Patian said solemnly. Plop. Long Xiang knelt down and said, Father, I only want to follow sect leader Jun eldest cousin, and the others are also qualified to be the successor. Bastard. Long Patian reprimanded. As a father, he had his own selfish motives. Naturally, he wanted to pass the position of patriarch to his son, and not to his nephew. In the past, Long Xiang's performance had disappointed him, so he didn't consider it. Now that his strength had increased, and he could defeat Long Zishuan, he naturally had plans to make him the young patriarch. Those elders definitely wouldn't have anything to say. Unfortunately, Long Xiang didn't want to take over a family that was comparable to a fourth or fifth rate. He was more willing to stay in the Ironbone clan. Although cultivation was tough, and he would occasionally be hit in the face by balls, there was warmth and love there. It was his second home. Father, don't say any more. Long Patian said. I have already talked to sect leader Jun. He has already taken his disciples away. From today onwards, you will learn how to run a family from me. Sect leader left. Long Xiang's body trembled, and he stood up and rushed out. When he arrived at the courtyard, he didn't see the sect leader or his fellow disciples. He only saw a piece of paper on the table in the living room. Xiang, be a good descendant of the Long family. When you take over as the patriarch, I can show off to outsiders that the current patriarch of the Long family was nurtured by me. Remember, a disciple of the Ironbone clan for a day, a disciple of the Ironbone clan for a lifetime. Don't chase. This is the sect leader's order. The person who signed it was Jun Changshao. Sect leader. Long Xiang held the letter in his hand and couldn't help but cry. Hua hua, dark clouds covered the sky and heavy rain poured down. Looking at Longyang City from the wilderness, under the lingering rain and fog, it was as if it was covered in a thin layer of gauze. On the official road, Jun Changshao brought his disciples and walked in the rain. Because of the protection of his spirit energy, the moment the water droplets came into contact with his clothes, they were bounced out. Sect leader, Li Qingyang said. Junior brother Long isn't going back with us? After all, he is a direct descendant of a large family. How can he stay in the Ironbone clan forever? Jun Changshao said. Sigh. Su Xiaoma said rather sadly. I didn't expect that coming to the Long family with junior brother Long this time would be a farewell. Lu Wansher cried. Sect leader, I don't want senior brother Long to leave. I hope that everyone can be happy together forever. Jun Changshao raised his head and looked at the dark sky, his emotions complicated. All good things must come to an end. Everyone fell silent. A year's time was not too long, but these disciples, amidst the laughter and arduous cultivation, had long cultivated a deep relationship with each other. Now that they were separated from Long Xiang, their emotions were complicated. At this time, Su Xiaomo raised his head, pointed to the front and exclaimed, Sect leader, look! Jun Changshao, Li Qingyang and the others all looked over, and saw a man who was drenched standing on the official road in front of them. His hair was wet, and there were water droplets on his eyelashes, but his gaze was firm. Who was it? It was Long Xiang. Sect leader. He clenched his fists and knelt on the ground with a plop, causing waves of water to splash out. He shouted loudly. Unless you expel me from the sect, I, Long Xiang, will always follow you. and will always be a disciple of the Iron Bone clan. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji and the others laughed. Lu Wanshi, whose eyes were filled with tears, also laughed through her tears. Jun Changxiao shook his head and walked over. Then, he summoned the historical record bamboo scroll and patted his head, saying, "The men of the Iron Bone clan have gold under their knees. Stand up for me." Shua. Long Xiang stood up and straightened his back. Jun Changxiao turned around and shouted towards Longyang City. "Patriarch Long, this is your son's own choice. I, Jun Changxiao, will take him away today." Sigh. On the city tower, Long Patian let out a long sigh. "Son, I respect your choice." Chapter 400. Last night, Long Patian invited Jun Changxiao over. First, he thanked him properly, then he talked about Long Xiang's future. After all, he was a direct descendant of the family. As a father, he naturally hoped that his son would inherit the position of patriarch in the future. On this point, Jun Changxiao could understand. Who wouldn't want their son to have a high position and not be a disciple in a sect? Patriarch Long, Jun Changxiao said, "Neither you nor I can decide Xiang's fate. The path he wants to take naturally, he will have to choose it himself." Thus, the two of them made a small bet on whether Long Xiang would stay in the Long family or follow him back to the Iron Bone. In the end, Long Patian lost the bet. His son gave up the right to inherit the position of patriarch and followed Jun Changxiao back to the Iron Bone. This was his choice, and the patriarch Long would not interfere. "Son." Standing on the city gate tower, looking at the group of people who gradually disappeared into the rain and fog, Long Patian muttered, "Father hopes that you can continue to grow stronger." Long Xiang, who was walking on the official road, seemed to have heard his father's thoughts, and said to himself, "Father, the reason your son chose this path is to continue to break through and become stronger." On this day, the son of the patriarch of the Long family, the most official one, followed the Iron Bone sect leader. He was no longer pretending to be a disciple of the Iron Bone, and had truly treated himself as a disciple of the Iron Bone. "All disciples, listen up." Jun Changxiao, who was walking on the rainy road, shouted, "Follow me to conquer the world, fight out of the Falling Star continent, and fight all the way to planet Namek." All the disciples were startled. What kind of place was planet Namek? Iron Bone. Jun Changxiao and the disciples rode on the Hurricane Wolf and returned, including the trip back and forth and the stay in the Long family. It had been 7 days. During this period of time, the disciples were doing missions in the mission pavilion as usual, and everything was normal. However, just as Jun Changxiao sat down in the main hall, Li Luoqiu handed over a letter and said, "Sect leader, someone sent this 2 days after you left." A letter of challenge? Jun Changxiao opened it and took a look. There were beautiful words written on it. The content was 9th day of the Lunar New Year. "I'm here to visit sect leader Jun and the Iron Bone Upright sect." The signatory was Shi Jingxian. Jun Changxiao slapped his forehead and said, "I forgot about Miaohua Palace's visit. That's not right. That woman was born with an eye disease. How could she know how to write? Moreover, her handwriting was so beautiful that it was almost comparable to his own." The system was speechless. While praising other people's good handwriting, he also praised himself. This was really shameless. Hall Masterly. Jun Changxiao rubbed his chin and asked, "What day is it today?" "The 8th day," Li Luoqiu said. "Damn, isn't that tomorrow?" "Qingyang," Jun Changxiao said. "Bring the disciples to clean up the sect. Make sure it's clean." "Yes." Li Qingyang accepted the order and went down. Long Xiang, who had just made the most important choice in his life, was sweeping the outer courtyard with a broom. "Father, if I had known earlier, I would have stayed and been a young master at home." A visit from a fourth-rate sect was a big deal. Jun Changxiao ordered Lu Wanshi to prepare more high-quality food. When the time came, he would prepare some delicious dishes to entertain the guests. "Sect leader," Lu Wanshi pouted and said, "Wasn't the food I made before delicious?" "Air." Jun Changxiao pinched her puffed-up cheeks and said with a smile, "What I mean is to make even more delicious food, so that the guests will have endless aftertastes." "No problem." Lu Wansher's eyebrows relaxed and she smiled brightly. Leave it to me. Jun Changshao left the canteen, pointed at Su Xiaoma and said, Stinking brat. Hang up the red lanterns in the main hall for me. All right. Su Xiaoma began to get busy again. It could be said that because Miaohua Palace was about to visit, all the Ironbone disciples were busy. In a short period of time, Ironbone was cleaned up red and green. Coincidentally, when Family Head AI came to visit and saw the red ribbon on Ironbone's signboard, he was stunned. When he walked into the sect and saw the red lanterns and red ribbons hanging in the main hall, he felt even more apprehensive. Sect leader Jun, sitting in the main hall, the first thing AI Shang said was, You're getting married. Pfft. Jun Changshao, who had just taken a sip of tea, spat it out. He wiped the water from the corner of his mouth and broke down. I don't even have a fiancé, how can I get married? Could it be that a disciple is getting married? Impossible. As the sect leader, I'm still a single dog. How can I allow someone to get married and show off their affection to me? If the disciples heard this, they would definitely cry out loud. It seemed that the sect leader couldn't get rid of his single status, and they, as disciples, had to accompany him for the rest of their lives. Single dog food? Family Head AI was at a loss. Jun Changshao said. To be honest, the palace master of Miaohua Palace will bring her disciples to our sect for a friendly visit tomorrow. I see. Family Head AI understood and smiled. Palace master Shi's looks are extraordinary, quite compatible with sect leader Jun. Why don't we ask the Blue Mountain sect to be the matchmaker? Jun Changshao shook his head. Does Family Head AI think that I, the leader of a small 7th-rate sect, am worthy of the leader of a 4th-rate sect? The system said. It's rare for the host to have self-awareness. Brother N. AI Shang said. First you fought the Sacred Spring sect, then you defeated the Murdering Shrine. Sect leader Jun is now famous in southwest Yangzhou. If you're not worthy of the palace master of Miaohua Palace, then no other young talent is. Am I that awesome? I didn't even know. After being praised by Family Head AI, sect leader Jun felt a little smug. However, he really didn't have any thoughts about the palace master of Miaohua Palace. It wasn't that he disliked the other party's eyesight, but that he still needed to develop his sect, and didn't have any plans to date for the time being. These words, it was as if he wanted to date, and girls would come to love him to death at any time. Did they not know that he had always been single based on his strength? Family Head AI, Jun Changshao said. Let's get down to business. As soon as they got down to business, AI Shang immediately handed over a spatial ring. Not only were there banknotes inside, there were also all kinds of herbs and seeds. The AI family gave him a fixed amount of money every month. The Ironbone Beast Material Store made a huge profit every day. Sect leader Jun's wealth was accumulating day by day. When he was poor, he often thought, why don't we rain money? When he was rich, he began to worry. How am I going to spend so much money? Why don't I just put it in the toilet and use the banknotes to wipe my ass? The system said, how despicable. With Miaohua Palace's visit, Jun Changshao still needed to do one more thing, and that was to put away all the things that shouldn't be seen. This was to prevent them from accidentally leaking and bringing unnecessary trouble to the sect. The next day, early in the morning, at the foot of Ironbone Mountain, a group of female cultivators dressed in fluttering white clothes appeared. They looked like otherworldly fairies. The leader was Shi Jingxian, the palace master of Miaohua Palace. Although her eyes were still empty and lifeless, her outstanding beauty couldn't be hidden. Palace Lord, Lear supported her and said, We've arrived at the foot of Ironbone Mountain. Shi Jingxian touched the scattered hair on her forehead and said shyly, Lear, this Palace Lord looks very tired after rushing all the way here, right? Palace Lord is still so beautiful. Ironbone sect leader and his disciple got lucky. Lear said, No. Shi Jingxian said, Help this Palace Lord tidy up my clothes, so that Jun Changshao doesn't see me as a joke. Lear was speechless. It wasn't that the Palace Lord hadn't gone on a long journey before, but this was the first time she paid so much attention to her appearance. Could it be that she had feelings for that guy, so she would dress up for him? Damn it. Wasn't that guy just a little handsome? What charm did he have to make the palace lord care so much about him? That wasn't it enough that he was a little handsome? PS4 and more. Let's talk about the update situation. Because it had been a burst of updates for the past few days, it couldn't be done at midnight, and had been pushed to the day. For the next few days it was the same. If there was an update, it would be released. At midnight, there wouldn't be too many manuscripts. Finally, I'm looking for recommendation tickets and monthly tickets. Chapter 401. Palace Master. Lear pointed at the platform in front of them and said, "This is the arena of life and death." After the evil sect incident in Huayang County, Jun Changshao didn't ask the disciples to dismantle the arena of life and death. There were many cultivators in the Azure Sun County who came to visit after hearing of Zhang Xian's valiant deeds. When they saw the flamboyant words on the wooden board, their eyes were filled with admiration. They didn't have cameras or mobile phones. Otherwise, they would definitely stand in front of the arena of life and death and pose for photos. Miaohua Palace had heard about the Iron Bone, Wu Huang, who scared away a peak martial king. Naturally, they knew about the arena of life and death. "Leah, I heard that the couplet on the platform was personally written by sect leader Jun. How's his handwriting?" Shi Jingxian asked curiously. Lear said, "It's so. She was speaking against her conscience. Sect leader Jun's handwriting was majestic and majestic. It definitely had the style of a master. Lear said this because the palace master also liked to practice calligraphy. If she knew that the guy's handwriting was good, she would be even more infatuated. What a pity, Shi Jingxian said rather dejectedly. I can't see what sect leader Jun looks like or his handwriting. Lear and the disciples immediately panicked. Palace master, don't think too much. Palace master, you don't look good with such a sad face. Sect leader Jun will laugh at you if you go to the Iron Bone. This sentence was very effective. Shi Jingxian, who was originally very depressed, suddenly smiled brightly and asked, Do I look good now? Lear and the disciples were speechless. Shi Jingxian walked up the stairs with the help of the disciples. Jun Changshao, who received the news, wore a clean and decent school uniform, and led the disciples to the mountain gate to welcome them. A group of beauties came to visit. As a gentleman, he had to go out and welcome them. They're here. Wow, they're all female disciples. They're not bad looking, compared to our junior sisters. Su Xiaoma didn't finish his words, and immediately shut his mouth because Ling Yuan Shiwei and the other female disciples looked at him coldly. In this world, only a woman's gaze had the ability to kill everything. Everything else was fleeting. Palace Master. Lear said, Sect Master Jun is welcoming us. Shi Jingxian said nervously. Lear Bengong's heart is suddenly beating really fast. Looking at the palace lord's slightly red face, Lear broke down and thought to herself, It's over. The palace lord is really infatuated with that boy. Very soon, the group of people climbed up and stood in front of the mountain gate. Jun Changshao was just about to walk over and shake hands with the palace lord of Ingenious Flower Palace, when Lear stepped in front of him and said with a cold expression, Sect Master Jun, please keep your distance. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. I understand. Jun Changshao took 2 steps back, cupped his fists and said, Welcome, Master of Miaohua Palace, to our sect for a friendly visit with your disciples. Welcome, a warm welcome. Su Xiaoma and the others shouted in unison. Shi Jingxian smiled and said, Will this queen disturb Sect Master Jun and disciples' daily cultivation by bringing my disciple here? No. Jun Changshao turned to the side and raised his hand. Palace Master Shi, please come in. Clap. Shi Jingxian and the others entered the Iron Bone Mountain under the warm applause of Su Xiaoma and the other disciples. Although there was a faint spiritual energy lingering around the Iron Bone Mountain, there was nothing special about it. In fact, it was a little ordinary. However, when the disciples of Ingenious Flower Palace entered and saw the spacious martial arts practice field, the group of buildings, and the magnificent and extraordinary main hall, their eyes were filled with surprise. If it were in the past, They might think that a seventh-rate force was biting off more than they could chew by building such a grand sect. However, after learning that they had scared off 20 evil sects and a peak martial king at the foot of the mountain some time ago, they felt that they were qualified to build such a grand sect. Lear, Shi Jingxian whispered. How is Sect Master Jun's sect? It's all right, Lear said. In short, in order to prevent the palace master from being too infatuated with Sect Master Jun, she would not say anything nice about him. From the looks of it, Jun Changxiao was not only single because of his strength, but also because of this disciple named Lear. I've already arranged top-grade delicacies to welcome Palace Master Shi and the disciples of your sect, Jun Changxiao said. When others came to visit, it was natural to receive them warmly. This was the way to treat guests. The canteen was also bustling with activity. Lear and the disciples of Ingenious Flower Palace were a little suspicious. Had the Ironbone Mountain just finished a wedding and had not had time to cancel it? Heavens! A disciple sitting next to her chewed on the food and tugged at her senior sister's collar. She whispered, "Senior sister, quickly try it. It's really delicious." Lear frowned slightly. She was a disciple of a fourth-rate sect after all. Why did she act so inexperienced when she came to the Ironbone Mountain? No matter how delicious it is, isn't it just to fill the stomach? Lear raised her chopsticks, picked up a mouthful of food and ate it. At this time, I slowed down time a few times. Everyone can clearly see how her eyebrows, nose, eyes, mouth, and her entire face turned from calm to shocked. After chewing and swallowing slowly, Lear felt as if she was in front of a beach. The warm sun shone, and the sea breeze blew. Her soul was about to float. Delicious. Too delicious. So fragrant. So fragrant. So fragrant. It was not just Lear. All the disciples of Ingenious Flower Palace, who ate the food, had exaggerated expressions on their faces. It was as if they were not eating food, but a heavenly treasure. Some of them even cried. Palace Master Shi, Jun Changxiao, who was sitting opposite her, said, "Why aren't you eating that?" Shi Jingxian rubbed the corner of her clothes under the table and said, I'm not hungry." It was not that she was not hungry. She was afraid that she would not look ladylike when she ate and Jun Changxiao would laugh at her. Sect Master Jun used the public chopsticks to pick up a few dishes for her, and said with a smile, "Although my Ironbone Mountain is a little small, it is not sloppy when it comes to eating. Palace Master Shi, you must give me the honor of tasting it." "All right then." Shi Jingxian raised her chopsticks and used her senses to explore the plate before picking up the food. Seeing this, Jun Changxiao felt pity for her. This woman had never seen light since she was young, and had always been accompanied by darkness. She was truly pitiful. If mid-grade healing pills could treat eye diseases, he would be willing to risk being called a saint by the readers, and give one to her. "Wow." At this moment, Shi Jingxian said in surprise, "Sect Master Jun, your Ironbone Mountain's dishes are so delicious. Eat more if it's delicious." Jun Changxiao smiled. Shi Jingxian did not care about being ladylike anymore, and picked up her chopsticks to eat. Although her eye disease made it harder for her to eat compared to ordinary people, she was slowly getting used to it. "Don't just eat the dishes. Drink some soup." Jun Changxiao picked up a spoon to scoop the soup, but Lear snatched it away and said, "Sect Master Jun, let me do it." "All right." Jun Changxiao sat down and said with a smile, "Palace Master Shi, Ingenious Flower Palace should be quite a distance away from my Ironbone Mountain. 6,000 li, so far? I'll go." Shi Jingxian raised her head and looked at Jun Changxiao with empty eyes. "Sect Master Jun wants to go to my Ingenious Flower Palace?" Jun Changxiao almost fell off his chair. "I'll go. That's just a catchphrase." He scratched his head and said, "If I have time, I'll naturally pay a visit to Ingenious Flower Palace." Shi Jingxian said expectantly, "When will Sect Master Jun have time? Does she really think that I'm going to pay a visit to Ingenious Flower Palace?" Jun Changxiao thought for a moment and said, "Maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe 2 or 3 years." Shi Jingxian smiled. "Then it's a promise. When the time comes, this palace will definitely invite the best chef to make delicious dishes for Sect Master Jun. Seeing the palace master smile so brightly, Lier was speechless. It's hopeless. It's really hopeless. Chapter 402. After the meal, Shi Jingxian wanted to walk around Ironbone. Jun Changshao personally led the way, showing her around the outer and inner courtyards. They even went to the herb garden. Shi Jingxian couldn't see, but Li Er and the other disciples could. Moreover, they looked very carefully everywhere they went. They were very curious. What was so special about Ironbone that it could nurture so many valiant disciples? It was a pity. Jun Changshao let them see as much as they wanted to see, but they definitely couldn't see what they shouldn't see. Palace Master, Lier whispered, Ironbone is very ordinary. There's nothing special about it. What about the disciples? Shi Jingxian asked. This? Lier was silent for a moment, then said, although their levels are low, their auras are strong. They can be considered talents. During the tour, she met many Ironbone disciples. Although they were only martial disciples, most of them were in the middle to high levels. It was inconceivable that such a seemingly ordinary sect could nurture such talents. How's the herb garden? Shi Jingxian asked. If a sect wanted to be strong, they needed to have pills. The key to refining pills was in the herbs. Not only did Miaohua Palace have a herb garden, but there were also many high-ranked herbalists in charge of it. The scale was not small, and the amount of herbs produced was enough to supply the entire sect. Lier said, it seems to be only about 10 acres. The herbs planted are also very ordinary. Shi Jingxian said, when I arrived at the herb garden, I felt the rich spiritual energy. If there weren't any high-ranked herbs planted, there's no way the spiritual energy would be so dense. As expected of the sect master, professional, Lier said, it's really very ordinary. They're all low-ranked herbs. She didn't deliberately hide it. The herbs planted in the herb garden were indeed not high-ranked in the eyes of a fourth-rate sect's disciple. However, Lier didn't expect that Elder Wei, who was in charge of the herb garden, was a hidden top-notch herbalist. The herbs he planted were no different from those on the market. However, the spiritual energy contained in them was more than 10 times higher. If all the herbalists of Miaohua Palace were to check the spiritual energy in a random herb, they would be ashamed. Palace Master Shi. At this moment, Jun Changshao walked over and said with a smile, I've already arranged a room for you. Do you need to rest after traveling such a long distance? All right. Shi Jingxian and her disciples stayed at Ironbone for the time being. The next morning, moving music came from the magically modified sound system, startling the disciples of Ingenious Flower Palace, who had just woken up and washed their faces. They all rushed to the entrance of the inner court. On the training field, Jun Changshao led the disciples to dance happily. Lier's beautiful brows frowned slightly, and she said, a dignified sect leader actually did such a shameful action. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by others? Shameful action? Shi Jingxian asked. Lier, what is Sect Master Jun doing? Lier thought for a while and said unhappily, he's dancing with his disciples. Ah! Shi Jingxian was surprised. Dance? Lier said in disgust. Palace Lord, this guy doesn't care about his status at all. I think we should hurry back to the sect. You're getting along well with your disciples, and even dancing with them. Sect Master Jun is so cute, Shi Jingxian said. My Palace Lord, what kind of bewitching potion did he feed you? Pass the ball, pass the ball. Li Tiansheng, you're already passing the ball into the sky. Shoot. Fuck. Why are you kicking junior brother Yang's face again? After the morning exercises, Su Xiaoma led his disciples to a soccer match. Both sides went back and forth, and it was very lively. The disciples of Ingenious Flower Palace had never seen such a strange sport before. They stood outside the field and watched curiously as the two sides ran around the training field, fighting over that small ball. To be honest, the disciples of Ingenious Flower Palace were all good-looking. It was definitely a beautiful scene to watch from outside the field. With beautiful women watching, the disciples of Ironbone seemed to be on steroids, and they were especially energetic when they kicked the ball. Men, naturally, they liked to show off their male hormones in front of women. Palace Lord Shi, how long are you planning to stay at Ironbone? Jun Changshao rested his hands on the railing outside the main hall and watched his disciples kick the ball. There was a spring breeze smile on his lips. This posture, coupled with this face, he was definitely the handsome male lead in a youthful campus romance anime. Unfortunately, Shi Jingxian, who was standing next to him, couldn't see it. She flicked her black hair that danced in the wind and said, "The atmosphere at Iron Bone is very good. If it weren't for the fact that I'm busy with sect affairs, I would like to stay here for a year or so." Jun Changshao turned around and leaned on the railing. "You don't have to do the sect affairs yourself. You can leave them to your disciples. Don't ask why, because that was what he did." Shi Jingxian shook her head and said, "The sect is different from other sections. There are many things that I have to deal with. Otherwise, it will be a mess after a long time." Jun Changshao said, "Don't work too hard. Pay more attention to rest." These words were so gentle and sweet that Shi Jingxian blushed. "Right," Jun Changshao said. "Why do you like to cover your other eye with your fringe?" "Can I not answer this question?" Shi Jingxian asked. "Sure," Jun Changshao said. "I'm just asking." Swish! Suddenly, he raised his hand and grabbed the happy football that was attacking Shi Jingxian. "You dare to kick such a beautiful girl? Big Li, you're courting death. I'll make you bloom today." Swish! Sect Master Jun swung his hand, and the happy football flew out like a cannonball. Li Fei shrugged and said calmly, "It's over." Bang! The happy football hit him in the face. Then, he rolled into the goal with the ball. Shi Jingxian wasn't a little fangirl. She came to Iron Bone this time mainly to find out why these disciples were so strong. In the end, she didn't find out anything useful except that they would dance and play a sport called football. It seems. In the side room, Shi Jingxian said, "Sect Master Jun doesn't want us to know too much. He's deliberately hiding something." "I've already said so," Lear said. "There's really something different about Iron Bone. Even if the palace lord came, he couldn't see it." However, Shi Jingxian said, "It's not a wasted trip. At least Sect Master Jun will pay a visit to Miaohua Palace." If Jun Changshao knew about it, he would definitely break down. She actually remembered the words "I'll go." He promised that he would come as soon as 2 or 3 months, and as slow as 2 or 3 years. It seemed like he had to go. Shi Jingxian stayed at Iron Bone for 3 days. Then, she decided to return to Miaohua Palace. Before leaving, she asked, "Sect Master Jun, will you participate in the Sect's martial arts competition in a month?" "Sect's martial arts competition?" Jun Changshao said awkwardly. "I've never heard of it. Naturally, I won't participate." Shi Jingxian said, "It's a grand event for the upper echelons of various forces to exchange pointers and discuss the Tao. It will be held on Mount Hua. With Iron Bone's current reputation, you should be qualified to participate." Jun Changshao was stunned. Mount Hua. The system said, not only Mount Hua, but also Mount Tai, Mount Song, Mount Hung and Mount Hung. "Damn," Jun Changshao said. "There are all 5 mountains. Is this a coincidence?" The Falling Star continent is very vast. There are countless mountains and rivers. It's normal for them to have the same name as the mountains in your previous world. The system explained. Jun Changshao said, "I'm a little busy. I'm afraid I won't be able to go." Not to mention going to Mount Hua to discuss martial arts. Even if he went to Mount Hua to discuss the sword, it would be better to cultivate in the sect and train the disciples. Not to mention, this kind of event where the big shots of the sects gathered would definitely be filled with all kinds of fancy posturing and bragging. There was no point in going. Ding! Side quest triggered. Jun Changshao opened the interface. The quest was participate in the Mount Hua martial arts competition and discuss the Tao of martial arts with the various sect leaders. Palace Master Shi, where is Mount Hua? P.S. Someone asked who the female lead is. It will be decided by everyone's vote. I will list a few. Please reply with the number in the comments. 1 Li Qingyang, 2 Xiao Ziji, 3 Yi Xingchen. Those that are not listed can be added in the comments section. Anyone who participates in the voting will have the opportunity to receive a bottle of gay elixir exclusively sponsored by Iron Bone. Chapter 403. Shi Jingxian left with the disciples. On the way, she was all smiles like a happy child. In Miaohua Palace, Shi Jingxian was rarely idle, and rarely had anyone to chat with. She spent her days mechanically cultivating and managing the sect. When she came to Iron Bone, she didn't have to think or do anything. Sect Master Jun could even chat with her. This kind of rare relaxation was something she had never experienced before. Palace Master is very happy, Lear thought. She and Shi Jingxian were about the same age. They lived together when they were young, and were like sisters. Because of her eye disease and being abandoned by her parents, Lear hadn't seen Palace Master smile for a long time. She was silent all day, as if she was isolated from the world. Later, Shi Jingxian took over as Palace Master, and began to manage the sect. She gradually walked out of her solitary personality, and finally learned to smile. But her smile was forced and unnatural. It was as if she was forcing herself to smile. When she met Jun Changshao in Sacred Spring Sect, Palace Master's smile turned from stiff to natural. When she came to Iron Bone, she could actually smile from the bottom of her heart. Then what kind of magic did Sect Master Jun have? It was nothing. It was just that yesterday in the maple forest at the back of the mountain, when only the two of them were there, Shi Jingxian said, "Sect Master Jun, managing a sect is really tiring." She didn't say this to the disciples or the elders. Today, she mentioned it to Jun Changshao because the two of them were about the same age, and were both sect masters. Yes, Jun Changshao said, the responsibility is great and the burden is heavy. It is indeed tiring to be a sect master. At first, if there was no time bomb, he might have become a free rogue cultivator, and lived without worries in the Falling Star continent. The system added, yes, you were abused in the Falling Star continent without worries. It was the truth. Because he had the strongest sect system, he had the capital to become stronger, and had powerful tools. If he was a rogue cultivator, he would have to rely on himself. He was one of those rookies in the 10,000 Beast mountain range, who risked his life for resources, but could be killed or abused at any time. Of course, this was just the beginning. After trying his best to adapt to being the sect master, he also took in many disciples with different personalities. That kind of feeling made him feel very good. Sometimes, Jun Changshao would think in the middle of the night that he didn't want to create the strongest sect, but a warm and comfortable home. There were many children at home. Although their personalities were different, and they each had their own stories, they slowly grew up under his care. There might be hardships and tribulations, but there would also be warmth and joy. Palace Master Shi, Jun Changshao said, the most important thing in life is to be happy. No matter how great the pressure is, one must always smile. So your name is Jun Changshao? Shi Jingxian asked. Jun Changshao said, yeah. Shi Jingxian fell silent. Girls who like to smile have good luck. Jun Changshao smiled and said, therefore, Palatial Master Shi, don't give yourself too much pressure. The most important thing is to face each day happily. Girls who like to smile often had good luck. This sentence made Shi Jingxian remember it in her heart. On the way back to the sect, every time she thought of it, she would unconsciously smile. Sigh. Jun Changshao sat in the main hall and murmured, I still haven't given her the middle-grade healing pill. The system said, the healing pill can't cure diseases, let alone eye diseases. Jun Changshao naturally knew. Therefore, this was also the reason why he didn't give it to Shi Jingxian. She's gone. Lu Qianqian leaned against the door and said with her arms crossed, Sect Master must be very disappointed and sad now. What's there to be disappointed about? What's there to be sad about? Jun Changshao said, no. Even if I'm disappointed and sad, does it have anything to do with her? As an expert in the field of emotions, Jun Changshao suddenly smelled something. He looked at the cold Lu Qianqian and asked suspiciously, are you disappointed and sad because I'm closer to Palace Master Shi? No. Lu Qianqian said, I'm just worried that Sect Master couldn't resist the temptation of beauty, and told Palace Master Miaohua Palace all the things that shouldn't be said in the sect. Jun Changshao was speechless. With beauties like you and Hall Master Li in the sect, I can still stay calm. How can I be tempted by other women? At this moment, Li Luochio walked in from outside and said with a smile, "Sect Master, why are you praising me for no reason?" Lu Qianqian stood up and left. Jun Changshao said, "Hall Master Li, is there something you need?" Li Luochio blinked and said with a smile, "Am I disturbing you?" Jun Changshao. Li Luochio stopped joking and returned to the topic at hand. "Sect Master, are you sure you want to participate in the Mount Hua Martial Arts Symposium in a month?" "Yes," Jun Changshao said. The side mission was triggered for contribution points, so he had to go no matter what. Li Luochio said, "As far as I know, those who can participate in such a grand event are at least fifth rate. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for us to go." The Mount Hua Martial Arts Symposium was a martial arts symposium between sections. The so-called sects were at least fifth rate. Iron Bone's reputation had improved a lot during this period, but it was still a seventh-rate sect. "We have to raise its level. It has to be at least sixth rate." Jun Changshao called Li Qingyang over and asked about the disciples' recent cultivation progress. In the end, the answer he got was that the latest batch of disciples had already reached the standard to be promoted to a sixth-rate sect. What were they waiting for? They should hurry up and get certified. "Hall Master Li," Jun Changshao said, "inform the shopkeeper of the beast materials store in Qingyang City to contact Deacon Zhao of the Certification Center and ask him to come and certify Iron Bone." "Understood." Li Luochio left. Qingyang City Certification Center. Zhao Xingming was currently hesitating. He had already received news that Jun Changshao had invited him to the Iron Bone Certification Center. However, what he was hesitating about was whether he should go or contact the headquarters and ask them to send someone over. "This is a sect with the potential to reach the top 3. I should contact the higher-ups to certify it to prevent any mistakes." Zhao Xingming hurriedly contacted the headquarters in southwest Yangzhou City. The next day, the headquarters sent a letter saying that he was fully in charge of the Iron Bone Certification Center. Zhao Xingming was immediately overjoyed. For a sect with such potential to be assigned to him by the headquarters, it meant that they trusted him a lot. There's hope for promotion. There's hope for promotion. Zhao Xingming held the letter and was extremely excited. Of course, he also knew that whether he could get a promotion or a raise depended on Iron Bone. "Deacon," a member of the certification center walked in and said, "Spirit Snake Sect's people are here to certify. They are waiting outside." "Spirit Snake Sect?" Zhao Xingming muttered in his heart. "Isn't that just a ninth-rate sect in the 100 Sect Alliance?" The member then said, "Alliance head Qin also sent a letter." Zhao Xingming received the letter, and the content was Deacon Zhao. "Spirit Snake Sect's sect leader is a relative of this Qin. Please make things convenient for us. We will prepare a generous gift for you." If it was in the past, Deacon Zhao would definitely be overjoyed when he saw the word generous gift. But now, he casually crushed the letter and threw it away, saying, "Tell Spirit Snake Sect's sect leader to wait in Qingyang City. I have something to deal with." "Yes." The member left. Zhao Xingming coldly said, Qinhaoren, I have already told the higher-ups about the agreement I made with you. If not for Iron Bone being certified as one of the top 3, I would have already lost my head. You still dare to come in through the back door." Sect leader Jun had also given him some advice. So as long as the members of the 100 Sect Alliance came to certify, he would do his best to ignore them. That morning, Zhao Xingming brought the certification tool and headed to Iron Bone as quickly as possible. Chapter 404. Zhao Xingming stopped in front of the life and death arena. When he saw the words Iron Bone written on the wooden board, he was immediately filled with respect. After being certified as a seventh-rate sect, sect leader Jun led his disciples to challenge the Sacred Spring sect. Then he destroyed 4 evil sects in Huayang County. Finally, he even scared off the experts of the Murdering God Hall. If he wasn't in Green Sun City, he would have suspected that he was dreaming if he didn't have first-hand information about these deeds. Thinking back to the first time he met sect leader Jun at the certification hall, Zhao Xingming was extremely grateful to Ma Yunting. If not for him, he definitely wouldn't have certified Iron Bone. In the end, he would have definitely offended him. Gold would always shine. If Iron Bone wasn't certified in Green Sun City, it would have been certified in other counties. If the higher-ups were suspicious and sent people to investigate, even 100 heads wouldn't be enough for them to chop off. Zhao Xingming was also very grateful to Jun Changxiao. He was grateful for his magnanimity. Otherwise, he would have died the same way. Therefore, when he entered Iron Bone, he said in the most sincere and respectful manner, "Sect Leader Jun, it's been a long time." "Deacon Zhao." Jun Changxiao smiled. "I'm sorry to have made you come all the way here." Zhao Xingming said, "It's my duty to certify the sect." Jun Changxiao didn't waste any more words. He called his disciples over and began to certify them one by one. Bang! Finally, he punched the testing stone. Not only did his strength meet Wuzong's standards, but his aura also met the standards. After all the tests, Zhao Xingming handed over the 6th-rate sect certification token. He cupped his hands and said, "In such a short time, Iron Bone went from a 9th-rate sect to a 6th-rate sect. This speed is amazing." Actually, he already knew whether or not Iron Bone had the qualifications to become a 6th-rate sect. The certification was just a procedure. It was a fluke. Jun Changxiao said humbly. "Ding! Congratulations to the host for upgrading the sect to a 6th-rate sect. The reward is 2,000 achievement points, 2,000 contribution points, and 1 experience talisman. Ding! Sect contribution points. 36005000. Ding! Sect achievement value. 220050000. He didn't expect to receive so many contribution points and achievement points from the promotion of his sect to the 6th rate. What he didn't expect was that he would receive an experience talisman. Fuck. This was good stuff. Ever since he had transmigrated, Jun Changxiao had not received any experience talismans from the shop. He had only received one from the novice gift pack, and had broken through from level 2 to level 5 in one go. The system said, "The experience talisman is not for sale. It is impossible for the host to buy it from the shop, unless it is given as a reward. I've never heard you mention it before." The host has never asked. You didn't ask. Have you asked? Jun Changxiao couldn't be bothered with him. After sending Zhao Xingming away, he hurriedly returned to his room and closed the main door and the inner door. He looked like a thief. Taking a deep breath, he took out the experience talisman from his spatial ring and said, "I just transmigrated, and it helped me open 3 meridians. This time I hope I can rise 3 ranks in a row." The system said, "The higher the rank, the more spiritual energy you need. The effect of the experience talisman will be greatly reduced. If you want to rise 3 ranks in a row, the host can wash up and sleep. It can be achieved in your dreams." This guy's poisonous tongue was far stronger than Lu Qianqian's. Jun Changxiao couldn't be bothered with it. Instead, he crushed the experience talisman with a paw sound. Hoo-hoo. In an instant, the heaven and earth attributes in the spirit core suddenly surged violently, as if someone had used a stick to stir it up. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to level 3 Wuzong. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to level 4 Wuzong. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to level 5 Wuzong. After the energy in the spirit core entered level 5 Wuzong, it began to calm down from its violent state until everything calmed down. Jun Changxiao felt refreshed and said, "Ah! The system. It just told the host to wash up and sleep, but it was slapped in the face again." Since the battle at the Holy Spring Sect, Sect leader Jun hadn't leveled up for a long time. However, he easily broke through to level 5 Wuzong with the help of the experience talisman. This was really unfair to the martial artists of the Starfall continent. It couldn't be helped. After all, he was the main character, and had all kinds of unreasonable system items. Boom! In the training room, Jun Changxiao, who had just broken through, punched the testing machine. It showed that his strength was 450,000 Jin. When he was at level 2 Wuzong, his strength increased by 350,000 Jin. After 3 consecutive victories, his strength increased by 100,000 Jin. This effect was very good. Sect leader Jun's aptitude was definitely not the best in the Starfall continent. The reason why he could reach the supreme rank was all because of the various products in the system. As for Li Qingyang and the others, as long as they continued to cultivate, they would definitely be extraordinary. There's still a gap to reach 1 million gene of strength. Jun Changsha wasn't very satisfied. The system was speechless. With the host's current level, even if you break through to the peak of Wuzong, your strength will only be 600,000 or 700,000. If you want to reach 1 million gene, you can only wait until you become a martial king. Martial king, huh? Jun Changsha was looking forward to it. Not to mention the higher level of martial arts. He could also form spiritual sense and spy on everything around him. He could do something meaningful. For example, spy on the female bathrooms and bathhouses. No. I'm the leader of a sect. How can I do such a despicable, shameless, and heartless thing? After breaking through, Jun Changsha returned to the study and opened the shop. The trip to the Long family made him realize that when his disciples faced stronger opponents in the future, they couldn't rely on their physical body to resist and rely on the strength talisman to fight. Therefore, the most important thing now was to enrich the martial skills pavilion. How to enrich it? That's right, refresh it in the shop. With more than 3,000 contribution points, Sect leader Jun's courage rose again. He continued to browse through the middle-level shop. In the end, he didn't get anything. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. It was time to refresh again. But should I refresh the beginner level or the middle level? The system said, I will definitely refresh the middle level. There are a lot of good things inside. Even if I get 2 or 3 of them, they will definitely surpass the goods in the beginner level shop. In order to make him spend more, this fellow really spared no effort to encourage him to waste more contribution points. Sigh. Let's do as he wishes. Jun Changsha locked onto the middle level shop and then fiercely bought it. After spending 100 contribution points, a brand new product was replaced. As expected, he wasn't disappointed. In the first row of products, there was a formula called the Middle Grade Insight Talisman. He clicked on the details. The content was similar to the introduction of the Beginner Grade Insight Talisman. It could see through higher-level martial arts for 60 minutes. The disadvantage was that it couldn't see through the martial arts in the shop. I'll buy it. Although at Jun Changshao's current level, the Beginner Grade Insight Talisman was basically enough, he definitely had to prepare for the future. Not to mention, in a month's time at Mount Hua, it would either be a spar or a discussion of martial arts. Using a middle-grade insight talisman to act cool definitely wouldn't be a problem. The system was speechless. Host is thinking too far. Chapter 405. Ding. Host has spent 1,000 contribution points. Obtained a middle-grade insight talisman Formula X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding. Sect contribution points, 25005000. After purchasing, the formula was automatically matched to the talisman pavilion. Jun Changsha clicked on it, and the refinement materials panel appeared. As it was a middle grade 1, it required 10 middle grade 9 crystal cores, 20 middle grade 1 grade 2 crystal cores, and the supplementary material was a middle grade healing pill. Seeing that the supplementary material was a middle-grade healing pill, Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. This was too fucking scientific. He had both crystal cores and pills, so he could refine quite a few of them. Most of the time, the insight talisman would not show its value, so Jun Changsha chose to refine 5 of them for now. After refining the talisman, Jun Changsha retreated to the middle-grade store and continued to browse the refreshed products. He prayed silently that there would be a martial arts technique. Needless to say, there really was. On the third row, there was a martial arts technique called 7 Profound Sunglow Remnant Scroll 1. Remnant Scroll? Jun Changsha clicked on the introduction item. 7 Profound Sunglow Remnant Scroll 1 Introduction. A martial arts technique created by the 7 Profound Sage of a high-grade plane. It gathers 7 colored light to form a mighty force. Strength. Powerful and ferocious moves. Weakness, because it is a remnant scroll, it can only form 7 profound sunglow remnant, so its power is greatly reduced. Price, 1,000 contribution points. Grade, Supreme Grade Beginner Stage. Note: the complete version is above divine grade. Damn! After reading the note, Jun Changshao exclaimed, above divine grade. Calm down, the system said. Only the complete 7 profound Sunglow Remnant Scroll is above divine grade. This Remnant Scroll is only at the supreme grade beginner stage. That's still awesome, Jun Changshao said. Bye. Ding. Host has spent 1,000 contribution points. Obtained a 7 profound Sunglow Remnant Scroll 1x1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding. Sect contribution points. 1500500. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the remnant scroll. When he saw the words 7 mysterious sunglow written on it, he was shocked. As expected of a superior divine martial technique, just the aura it exuded was far superior to that of a divine martial technique. Outside the falling star continent, in an incomparably dark world, thousands of streaks of light streaked across the sky like meteors. Woody! Suddenly, a furious roar resounded through the sky. Leave behind the 7 profound sunglow fragment, and we'll spare your life. Ha ha ha. A loud laugh came from the light that was flying at the very front. He shouted, I found this treasure in the tomb of the 7 profound saint, after going through life and death situations. Why should I give it to you? Since that's the case, don't blame us for being impolite. Hoo-hoo. In an instant, the countless streams of light that were relentlessly pursuing him erupted with terrifying heaven and earth attributes. They instantly tore through space and blasted towards the person called Woody. Huff! That terrifying power, that terrifying momentum, caused the space within tens of thousands of miles to distort and tremble. If Yi Xingchen was present, he would definitely be shocked to the core when he sensed the energy fluctuations. Because even when he was at his peak, compared to this kind of power, he was still abnormally small and insignificant, abnormally not worth mentioning. Boom! Boom! The streaks of light flew in all directions and shattered heaven and earth. The entire sky was either shattered or sunken by the vast power. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. This group of martial cultivators who were surrounded by streaks of light could do such a thing. Their strength was simply unimaginable. Boom! Boom! Woody, who was running away, was bombarded by all kinds of colorful streaks of light. In the end, he landed on a mountain like a cannonball. Rumble! After the mountain was hit by his body, a large part of it collapsed, and the entire ground caved in by dozens of feet. Damn it! Woody stood up with difficulty from the deep pit. The streaks of light on his body dissipated, and an extremely angry and distorted face appeared. He had finally found the tomb of the 7 profound sacred venerate, and obtained one of the fragments of the 7 profound sunglow art, after going through all kinds of traps. However, in the end, news of it was leaked, and he ended up being chased by many experts. Swoosh! 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 At that moment, thousands of streaks of light flew over rapidly and hovered above the deep pit. When the light dimmed, many martial cultivators who were emitting powerful auras appeared. Woody, said an elder coldly. A stern old man said, It isn't easy to step into the saint realm. Don't throw away your life for a manual. Woody remained silent. His eyes were filled with bitterness. Then, he raised one hand and took out the fragment of the secret manual that he had obtained from the tomb. Many experts' eyes were burning with desire. Although the martial technique created by the 7 profound sacred venerate was only one of the fragments, it contained the secrets of the great sage realm. However, it was said that it contained the secrets of the holy venerate realm. If one could comprehend it, even if they did not break through to the holy venerate realm, their cultivation would definitely improve further. Everyone, looking at the cultivators who were discussing amongst themselves, Woody raised the book and said, This he will hand it over today. Whoever gets it will depend on their ability. He gave up. Although the secret manual could help him comprehend the secrets of the great sage realm, it was not as important as his life. Quickly throw it over. Many experts said anxiously. Some even wanted to fly over and snatch it. A bunch of greedy people. When I cultivate to a higher realm, I will definitely take revenge for being besieged today. Thinking of this, He Woody no longer had any thoughts about the secret manual. He waved his hand and was about to throw it over and let them fight to the death. However, before he Woody threw out the fragment of the secret manual, it disappeared into thin air. Gah! He was dumbfounded. The experts who were ready to snatch the secret manual were also stunned. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. Where is my secret manual? Why is it gone? Where did it go? Everyone, he Woody's mouth twitched. If I say that the secret manual suddenly disappeared, would you believe me? Believe my ass. It must have been put into your space ring again. Do you want to take it for yourself? It seems that you are determined to let your cultivation go down the drain today. Everyone, let's attack together and kill him here. Okay. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the aura of the experts exploded again. Just the energy waves formed were like turbulent waves, crazily wreaking havoc in the surrounding space. Seeing this, he Woody knew that there was no way he could explain himself. He could only burn his blood essence and turn into a red stream of light, rushing out of the encirclement and into the endless sky. He roared angrily in his heart. Why did my 7 profound sunglow fragment scroll disappear into thin air for no reason? Chase, don't let him escape. If you don't hand over the 7 profound sunglow fragment, you will die today. Boom, boom, boom. Iron Bone in the study room. Jun Changshao placed the 7 profound sunglow remnant scroll that had appeared out of thin air in his space ring on his desk and flipped through it happily. In the end, he couldn't help but sigh. This martial skill is really unfathomable. Chapter 406. Where did he Woody's 7 profound rays broken scroll go? The wise you must have figured it out already. I won't explain further in the main text. Let's talk about this martial technique. When Jun Changshao tried to read it, he couldn't stop. He didn't even have the interest to look at the items in the store. After a night of studying, he could only use the word unfathomable to describe it. Of course, this unfathomable didn't mean that it was difficult to cultivate. Jun Changshao felt that whether it was the chant or the words in the secret manual, it seemed to contain some kind of complicated meaning. Damn it! After dawn, he hugged his head and said with a broken face, I keep feeling that it's hiding something, but it's like a mirror. I can't touch it at all. The system said. The introduction says that this is a martial technique from a high-level plane. With the host's current IQ, can you comprehend it? The IQ it was talking about was martial IQ. Even if Yi Xingchen tried to comprehend it, he would be dumbfounded and shocked. Fuck, Jun Changshao said. If it weren't for the fact that the insight talisman has no effect on the martial techniques bought from the system, I could comprehend the hidden meaning in minutes. What a pity, the system said. You can't use it, you can't use it. This guy was getting more and more naughty. Since his martial IQ was not enough to see through the mystery, Jun Changshao gave up and started to copy it in large quantities. After purchasing the 7 profound rays broken scroll, the system automatically matched it with the Sect's martial technique. Ding! Ding! 5,000 secret manuals were copied. If those martial cultivators who fought for the secret manuals, without caring about their lives, knew that this kind of peerless treasure was copied so many times at once, they would definitely vomit blood. There's also a divine-grade martial technique like Red Sky Raging Flame Slash. It's just nice that I can give it out for the disciples to cultivate together, Jun Changshao murmured. A divine-grade mid-level martial technique and a complete one above divine-grade martial technique were placed in the martial technique pavilion. High-level martial techniques, in the eyes of the strong, could be fought to the death for. But in the Ironbone clan, they were placed on the shelf for the disciples to pick up. This was quite fierce. This was the characteristic of a sect. After the morning exercises, the disciples found out from the sect leader that there were new martial techniques in the cultivation method pavilion. Thus they swarmed over. Isn't this the move that the sect leader used in the Long family? Su Xiaoma, who was holding the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame Slash, almost jumped up in excitement. When Jun Changshao fought with the second elder in the Long family, he used a flame battle to break the other party's dragon roar through the 9 heavens, which deeply shocked him. At that time, He was still thinking that if he could cultivate such a powerful martial skill, it would definitely be very satisfying. He didn't expect to get it today. Li Fei and Tianqi also took a book each, admiring it too much to put it down. No one was more excited than Long Xiang. The Long family's dragon roaring nine heavens belonged to the more outstanding spirit energy type martial technique. The Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame / used by the sect leader was clearly several times stronger. 7 Profound Rays Incomplete Scroll 1? Li Qingyang held the secret manual in his hand and muttered, "Is it incomplete?" He casually flipped through a few pages and was immediately attracted by the chants inside. Then, he silently kept it in his interspatial ring. Yi Xingqian also came, and he was the most shocked among all the disciples. Because he casually flipped through the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame / he realized that this was definitely another divine rank martial technique. And it was a spirit energy type. Casually placing a divine rank martial technique in the cultivation method pavilion for the disciples to choose from, the sect leader is really generous. Yi Xingqian thought. 7 Profound Rays Incomplete Scroll 1? He picked up the secret manual on the shelf and began to flip through it. Although Yi Xingqian was surprised by the moves inside, he wasn't too shocked. Speaking of which, Jun Changshao, a Wuzong of this level, was able to pry into the profound meaning of the secret manual. As a martial emperor, why didn't he notice it? The reason was simple. The secret manual was copied by the system. That kind of unfathomable profound meaning could only be felt by the original. Although it's incomplete, its power should be extraordinary. Yi Xingqian put away the 7 Profound Rays Incomplete Scroll, then returned to the side room and began to comprehend it. The biggest advantage of the system's martial techniques was that they were easy to learn. With Yi Xingqian's martial arts experience, it only took him 1 day to comprehend the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame / Ho-ho! On the inner courtyard's martial arts field, spiritual energy burst out in the form of flames. In the process of slashing down, it instantly condensed into a flaming palm. Boom! It fiercely hit the floor, forming a wave of flames. "Oh my god!" Su Xiaoma stared and said. Junior brother Yi actually learned the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame / Too powerful. Tianqi and Li Fei were full of admiration. They also cultivated for a day. Although they had some small gains, compared to Yi Xingqian, the difference was like heaven and earth. This was the difference in martial arts experience. It wasn't something that could be made up by relying on the system's resources. Shua. Yi Xingqian retracted his spiritual energy and secretly said, "Although this move is easy to learn, if you want to reach perfection, you still need to diligently comprehend it. Moreover, during the execution process, spiritual energy can be converted into fire energy. If you have a fire attribute, the power should be increased by a lot." As expected of a martial emperor, he was really super professional. The strength of the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame / could only be reflected with a higher level of comprehension. Yi Xingqian also planned to major in this type of spiritual energy martial technique, because as long as he comprehended it to a good level, it would be stronger than the martial techniques he cultivated before. There were countless martial arts in the world. It was definitely difficult for a person to cultivate all of them. Often, they would choose to focus on a few martial arts. Yi Xingqian had a lot of martial arts. In his previous life, he only used a few types of martial arts to spar with. In the study, Jun Changshao stood in front of the window. He looked at the pensive Yi Xingqian and said, "To comprehend the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame / in 1 day and execute it, this disciple of mine is really not simple." The system said. Among the many disciples, Yi Xingqian is undoubtedly the one with the highest martial arts limit. Is that so? Jun Changshao laughed. To be praised by the system like this disciple must be carefully cultivated. However, his temperament was a bit arrogant. Although he wasn't careless when fighting, he always felt that he didn't have much of a sense of belonging to the sect. Of course, the system said again. Eldest disciple Lu Qianqian is also not a mediocre person. In terms of martial arts attainment, she may not be weaker than Yi Xingqian. Jun Changshao was silent. At present, Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingqian were undoubtedly the sect's two main attackers. However, one was cold, and the other was arrogant. They didn't match the sect's style at all. What about Qingyang and Sinner? These two also have great potential. However, it will depend on how the host trains them in the future. Don't worry, Jun Changxiao said. As long as I am here, as long as they are Iron Bone disciples, they will all be nurtured into super geniuses. They will all be nurtured into dragons among men. This road was destined to be long, but he would be unwavering and courageous as he walked forward. Please vote. Chapter 407. Jun Changxiao didn't stay idle either. He had already begun to comprehend the 7 profound Sunglow Remnant Scroll. Although the secret scroll revealed unfathomable mysteries, it was easy to cultivate because it was only 1 volume, and the quality was at the beginner level of supreme grade. The way this chant works is a bit special, Jun Changxiao murmured. He had learned a lot of martial arts from the Falling Star continent with the help of the Insight Talisman. Although the chants were strange, the way they worked and how they were executed was actually similar. There was a big difference between the 7 profound Sunglow Law and the Insight Talisman. The system said, different planes have different cultivation methods. Let's give it a try. Jun Changxiao came to an open space at the back of the mountain and calmed his mind. He silently recited the chants and began to circulate his qi. Whoosh whoosh. Gradually, the attributes that were hidden between heaven and earth seemed to be drawn and gathered in his right palm, taking on a crimson color. The so-called 7 profound Sunglow Law communicated with the attributes of heaven and earth and gathered 7 different colors. Red was the first color. Smart students would definitely think that the so-called 7 profound Sunglow Law was red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. According to the Remnant Scroll, when the red energy gathered in one's hand to the extreme, it could be blasted out and instantly form a shockwave. What is the sect leader doing? The red light is gathering in his palm. Is he going to perform the 7 profound Sunglow Law? Let's go and take a look. The disciples who were preparing to go to the Tower of Trials instantly gathered around. They had also comprehended the 7 profound Sunglow Law, but they were still at the research level, so they hoped to benefit from the sect leader's performance. In a short time, more than 300 disciples gathered in the open space. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also among them, staring intently. I feel it. After a few circulations, the energy gathered in Jun Changxiao's right palm had reached the highest level he had comprehended so far. Step. He took a step forward and bent his body slightly. His hands were placed on the right side of his waist. His left and right palms were crossed and his fingers were bent. This posture was definitely the Kamehameha. So we have to make a pose before performing it. I thought it was just gathering energy and pushing it out. It's all thanks to the sect master's demonstration. Otherwise, we would have to take a lot of detours. The disciples discussed in low voices. Some people even imitated the actions of the sect leader and used the Kamehameha. Actually, there was no need for him to do anything when he used the 7 profound Sunglow break and condensed the energy in his palm. Sect leader Jun just wanted to fulfill his childhood dream. He was definitely a young man who wasn't Chinibyu. Hoo-hoo. The crimson stream of light gathered in his palms continuously rotated between his palms, creating waves of wind. Jun Changxiao's hair fluttered in the wind, revealing a handsome face that would make men fall silent and women cry. Turtle. Ba ba ba. 7. Xian. Sunset. Light. His eyes narrowed as he slowly pushed his hands forward and shouted, break! Swish! The crimson flowing light that had gathered in his palm flickered with a dazzling light for a moment, and then quickly extinguished. Caw! Everyone was silent. Seeing this, the disciples who were looking forward to it were stunned. What's going on? Jun Changxiao was also stunned. The energy was clearly gathered to the extreme, and there was no problem with the chants and meridians. It should be possible to push it out. Let's try again. Jun Changxiao once again condensed the crimson attribute, and then used the Kamehameha pose, saying, 7. Xian. Sunset. Light. Break. Swish. The energy that had gathered in his palms quickly extinguished again. The disciples behind him twitched their mouths. 7. Xian. Sunset. Light. Break. Swish. 7. Swish. Break. 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 Jun Changshao continuously condensed and pushed many times, but he still couldn't push the crimson energy out. He was so angry that he went crazy. This damn thing. The disciples were speechless. Did the sect leader know how to do it or not? The system couldn't help but ask, "Host, can you not drag your voice when you shout?" "What?" Jun Changshao said. "I want to be Chinibyu. Can't I drag my voice?" The system collapsed. "Then drag it out. Even if you drag it out, it won't work." Fuck. Jun Changshao once again used the chance, and the crimson energy gathered in his palms. 7 Mysterious Sunglow Break. This time he didn't drag his voice. He shouted the moment he pushed his palms out. The crimson energy flickered, and immediately formed a fist-sized light beam, which burst out with a red glow. Swish! The crimson light sped forward. Because it was close to the ground, not only did it crush the grass and trees, but it also created a long and deep ditch. Success! The disciples exclaimed. Boom! At this moment, a huge rock 100 meters away was hit by the crimson light beam and exploded into pieces. Oh my God! The disciples opened their eyes wide. Smashing a huge rock into pieces wasn't enough to shock them. After all, the rupturing fists could do the same. What shocked them was that the sect leader and the rock were 100 feet away. Second senior brother. Su Xiaoma's mouth twitched. The range of this 7 Mysterious Sunglow Break is too far. Li Qingyang said solemnly. It's a very strong martial arts skill. Yi Xingchen, who was standing next to the training tower, secretly said. It seems that it's necessary to comprehend this top-grade martial arts skill. He had been immersed in cultivating the red sky raging flame slash, and didn't take the time to cultivate the 7 Mysterious Sunglow Break. Now that he saw the sect leader use it, and it hit so far, he realized that this skill's level wasn't high, but it was extraordinary. In fact, when using the 7 Mysterious Sunglow Break, even if one didn't shout out the name of the martial arts skill, as long as they maintained absolute focus, they could still use it. Jun Changshao's previous dreams were fulfilled. Every time he dragged out the name of the martial arts skill, he would be a little distracted, so what he got in return was failure. However, today's actions had successfully led the disciples astray. They had successfully cultivated the 7 Mysterious Sunglow Break, and every time they used it, they would be in a horse stance with their palms pressed to their waists. As a result, in the following period of time, we were able to see the open space behind the mountain through the long lens. One disciple after another was performing movements similar to the Kamehameha. The scene was very beautiful, but also very Chinibyu. Of course, it was undeniable that with the addition of these 2 martial arts skills, the Ironbone martial arts skill library had become much richer. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others could use exploding fist and mountain-splitting palm in close combat. But when they fought, they relied more on long-range martial arts skills. The new disciples or outer sect disciples mainly focused on fist and palm techniques, because martial arts like the red sky raging flame slash were too low level. Even if they succeeded in cultivating it, it was very difficult to obtain spiritual energy. Who? Sitting on the sect leader's seat in the main hall, sect leader Jun murmured. Now we just have to wait to participate in the martial arts symposium on Mount Hua. Sect leader, Elder Wei walked in and said, There's another phenomenon in the mountain. What? Jun Changshao hurriedly stood up. When he arrived at the medicinal garden, he saw that around the isolation array in the distance, there were 7 colored attributes appearing again. It was even stronger and denser than last time. Elder Wei, Jun Changshao said, What's going on? The place where the spiritual energy had recovered was clearly sealed off by him, with an isolation array. How could it appear in other areas? Elder Wei said solemnly. If I'm not wrong, the day of the spiritual energy recovery of the Ironbone Mountain is approaching. Such an eye-catching phenomenon will definitely be seen by outsiders. Jun Changshao thought for a moment and said, We must quickly increase the range of the isolation array. There can't be any leaks. Shua. Cloud-treading steps leaped up and flew 200 to 300 feet. After a few ups and downs, he stopped in the area where the seven-colored light was spreading and began to expand the isolation array. Chapter 408. The area that showed signs of spiritual energy recovery was covered by Jun Chengxiao's isolation array. He didn't expect another place to appear, and the area was quite large. There was no other way. He could only continue to extend the array. After working for half a day, he finally covered the new area, so that others couldn't see it from the outside. Sect Master. Elder Wei was in the isolation array. He looked at the colorful light gathering in the sky and said, "It should be less than half a month before the spiritual energy recovers." Is that so? Jun Chengxiao was looking forward to it. The spiritual energy recovery could drive the iron bone's heaven and earth attributes. It could also be used to mine spirit stone veins. It was definitely an opportunity for the sect to become stronger. For safety's sake, Elder Wei suggested, "Sect Master, it's best to set up an isolation array on the periphery to avoid any mistakes and let others spy on us." That makes sense. The next day, Jun Chengxiao rolled up his sleeves and began to set up an isolation array on a large scale. After working for 2 or 3 days, he covered a distance of 40 to 50 miles. "Elder Wei," Jun Chengxiao said, "it should be about time, right?" "It's about time," Elder Wei said. "Now we just have to wait for the spiritual energy to recover." Okay. Jun Chengxiao would come over to take a look whenever he was free and continue to cultivate martial arts and comprehend martial arts techniques. Li Qingyang and the others had also comprehended the 2 martial arts techniques. Although they couldn't reach perfection, they could at least perform them. Back mountain. In front of a mountain wall, Jun Chengxiao stood 10 meters away. His body suddenly released scorching exquisite fire, forming a flaming palm the moment he pounced over. Bang! The mountain wall couldn't withstand the bombardment. It couldn't withstand the scorching temperature and the wanton spiritual energy. In an instant, a 5 to 6 meter deep dent was slashed out, and the edges were scorched black. The system said, "The host's blow is at least 600,000 kilograms of strength. It can be considered as a small success." Jun Chengxiao said in surprise, "It's only a small success, but it increased by 150,000 kilograms. Wouldn't it be better for Li Shangtian to comprehend it to the extreme?" Li Shangtian. The system poured cold water on him. With the host's current cultivation and understanding of martial arts, minor accomplishment is the limit. If you want to achieve great accomplishment, you have to at least become a martial king. Jun Chengxiao said, "Can you not dampen my enthusiasm? I'm just telling the truth." The system said, "If you don't like it, I'll tell you more in the future." Fuck you. Jun Chengxiao once again assumed the posture of using the 7 profound sunglow break. Then, he condensed a crimson light and blasted it over, blasting a large round hole in the mountain wall. The hole was more than 20 meters deep. Scarlet Heaven's raging flame slash, cut down from top to bottom, only destroying the mountain walls within the attack range. The 7 profound sunglow break was a form of impact. If it was strong enough, it would naturally penetrate deeper. After testing its power, Jun Chengxiao discovered a problem. Although the power of these 2 martial arts techniques is not bad, the consumption of spiritual energy is much greater than my slash. I have one more cyclone than others, but I can only use the 7 profound sunglow break 5 or 6 times at most. Scarlet Heaven's raging flame slash is even more ridiculous. It can continuously store energy until it can't store anymore. Although the power is at its peak, it will still drain half of the user's body. That's why. The system said, "Both are spiritual energy martial arts, but the mysterious Almighty who improved my slash is the real strong one." That's right. Jun Chengxiao deeply agreed. Although my slash's level is a bit low, its power will increase with the realm. Furthermore, the consumption of spiritual energy is extremely low. Without a super high-level martial art, it's impossible to create it. Scarlet Heaven's raging flame slash and 7 profound sunglow break. Although powerful, they still rely on spiritual energy to forcefully increase their power. I really hope that one day I can meet the Almighty who improved my slash. Jun Changxiao said. Forget it. The system said. With the host's half-baked martial arts level, he'll be burning incense to be able to meet Wu Sheng. Don't expect to meet those almighty. You're attacking me again. Sorry, it's a habit. Scram. Jun Changxiao was comprehending the martial arts technique, and so were the disciples, especially inner disciples such as Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji. Because of their high aptitude, they could already use it skillfully. As for its power, it depended on their comprehension level and the strength of their spiritual energy. Yi Xingchen was undoubtedly the best among the disciples. In terms of comprehension of the 7 profound sunglow break, he was even stronger than sect leader Jun. One of the 10 great martial emperors, he wasn't bragging. However, because he didn't have the fire attribute, his comprehension of Scarlet Heaven's raging flame slash was much weaker than Jun Changxiao's. Whoosh whoosh. A few days later, similar to Elder Wei's inference, in the isolation array that covered dozens of miles, colorful streams of light were released on a large scale and finally connected together. The multicolored light poured down all around, making it look like a fairyland. Sect leader, Elder Wei said, the recovery of spiritual energy is today. Jun Changxiao's eyes suddenly burned. TSK. Jiangya, who was inside the array, said expectantly, I didn't expect that I would be able to witness the recovery of spiritual energy in my lifetime. After the life and death arena incident, he had entered the training tower to continue his training. He was just short of moving a bed to live inside. Whoosh whoosh. The colorful streams of light continued to erupt and eventually filled more than half of the isolation array. Fortunately, he had listened to Elder Wei's words and expanded the array in advance. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to accommodate this amount of light. Crack. Suddenly, there was a cracking sound. In the central area of the array, where the signs of the recovery of spiritual energy appeared for the first time, the ground began to crack rapidly and spread in all directions like a spiderweb. Looking down from the sky, the cracks formed a circle that seemed to contain some kind of restriction pattern. The spiritual energy recovery array, Elder Wei said excitedly. It's indeed the recovery of spiritual energy. Swoosh. As he spoke, a 7-colored radiance suddenly flashed from the crack in the ground that was the size of a finger. Then it flew out like a barrier of light. The light barriers continued to extend and seemed to be rushing into the sky. Sect Master, Elder Wei said, quickly increase the height of the array. Jun Changxiao had long sensed that something was wrong. He communicated with the isolation array, and the array and lines flashed. The invisible flowing light barrier extended toward the sky at the fastest speed. How high did it extend? It was more than 10,000 feet. Fuck. Jun Changxiao tried his best to strengthen the isolation array. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Why isn't the flowing light shooting up to the sky? Looking up from below, the flowing light combined to form a huge circular pattern. This was the spiritual energy recovery array. However, it was not set up by an array master. It was nurtured by heaven and earth. It only had one duty, and that was to awaken the majestic spiritual energy sleeping underground. Elder Wei said, the spiritual energy recovery array will last for a while. Sect Master, you must stabilize the array and not let the phenomenon be exposed. Jun Changxiao said, how long will it last? It'll take at least 7 days. What? Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. If it lasts for 7 days, I'll be exhausted to death. Chapter 409. When the heavens give a great responsibility to a man, he must first suffer hardships to his will and work his muscles and bones. The system's words echoed in his ears. Jun Changxiao said impatiently, can you shut up? The system said, although maintaining the array for a long time is a bit tiring, it can also temper the host's soul force. These words were more like it. Sect leader, Lu Wanshur said, open your mouth. Ah. Sect leader Jun opened his mouth. Lu Wanshur stepped on the small stool and raised her chopsticks to send the food into his mouth. Very delicious, very fragrant. Jun Changxiao praised. Your culinary skills have improved by a lot. If you participate in the cooking god competition, you will definitely be able to take the crown. Lu Wancher said in surprise. Sect leader has also heard of the cooking god competition? I'll go. There really was such a competition? Jun Changxiao said. I have heard of it. Lu Wancher's eyes lit up, and said, that is the pinnacle of culinary arts in the Falling Star continent, and only true cooking masters are qualified to participate. It's a pity that it will take a long time before it's held. Moreover, you must win the Southwest Yangzhou's culinary arts competition, and obtain the top 10 in order to obtain the entrance ticket to the cooking god competition. Sect leader. Lu Wancher raised her head and looked at the sky. Her eyes were filled with endless yearning as she said, participating in the cooking god competition and competing with the various cooking masters has been Du's dream since he was young. About that, Jun Changxiao said weakly. Can you take the chopsticks away first? Lu Wancher turned around and found that the pair of chopsticks she was holding was poking into the sect leader's nostrils. She cried out in panic. Sect leader, I'm sorry. Speaking of which, why did Lu Wancher start feeding Jun Changxiao? Because his hands were stuck to the isolation array. He was at a height of 10,000 feet all day long. He had to eat, drink, and poop here. After sniffling and shaking off the rice grains, Jun Changxiao said, when will the Southwest Yangzhou's culinary arts competition begin? There's still half a year. Lu Wancher said. Jun Changxiao said, when that day comes, I'll take you there. You'll definitely qualify for the God of Cookery tournament. This lowly was basically sent over for free. Every day, she would cook for him and his disciples. Since she had a dream, as the sect leader, he had to help her realize it. Join the Ironbone clan, and create a dream together. Back then, the advertising slogan in the city wasn't just for show. Really? Lu Wancher said excitedly. Jun Changxiao said really. Lu Wancher was very happy and excited. She could not control her emotions, and wanted to pounce over. Stop, Jun Changxiao said. I'm controlling the formation. Lu Wancher stopped and smiled brightly. I definitely won't disappoint Sect Master, and obtain the entry ticket to the God of Cookery tournament. It's not enough to just get a ticket, Jun Changxiao said. I'm a disciple of Ironbone. Even if I have to participate in the cooking competition, I must take first place. All right, Lu Wancher said firmly. Take first place. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. This is the agreement between us. You have to work hard to improve your cooking skills. If his hands were not on the barrier, he might have gently patted her head again. Yes, it's here. It's so comfortable. No, it's too weak. Damn, you guys are so strong. Are you trying to squeeze me to death? Within the isolation formation, Jun Changxiao's hands were still on the barrier. Su Xiaomo, Li Fei, and Tian Qi were massaging his back and shoulders. Sigh. It was good to have disciples. However, Sect Master Jun could still bear it at first. After the 4th day, he stood there numbly with dark circles around his eyes. He could only stand and could not relax at all. It was definitely torturous. 5th day. Jun Changxiao's eyelids were drooping. His hair was messy, and he looked very miserable. 6th day. Jun Changxiao was no longer the Jun Changxiao from before. He was more like a soulless wooden stake. He muttered, one more day. One more day. This was really a great responsibility from the heavens. It must first make one's mind suffer, his muscles and bones toil, his skin and skin starve, and his body be empty. Jun Changxiao, who stood in the formation like a wooden stake, experienced what it meant to collapse. There would be returns when there was effort. Under his support during this period of time, the spiritual energy recovery formation inside the formation was extremely dazzling and could not be seen from the outside. If Jun Changxiao did not cover it up like this, the colorful flowing light appeared, and it could be clearly seen from the Qingyang city. 7th day. Just as Jun Changxiao was enduring unbearable pain, the symmetrical circular pattern, hanging in the air and on the ground, began to spin crazily. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After a while, from the cracked ground, a rich and pure elemental energy spread out and spread toward the isolation array. At the same time, The colorful light in the sky dimmed from its initial dazzling brilliance until it completely disappeared. Elder Wei said, "The phenomenon caused by the spiritual energy recovery has ended. Sect Master, you don't have to support it anymore." Plop. As soon as he finished speaking, Sect Master Jun collapsed to the ground like mud. He stood motionless on the spot for 7 days. He couldn't even sleep or take a nap. If he wasn't cultivating the martial Tao, he would have died long ago. Swoosh. Without the support of the isolation formation, the invisible barrier that stretched tens of thousands of feet high quickly shrank back to its normal range. Although the heaven and earth anomaly had ended, dense heaven and earth attributes were still gushing out from the cracks. "The spiritual energy is so pure," Jun Changshao exclaimed. Elder Wei smiled and said, "It has just recovered. After a while, it will surprise Sect Master even more." "Is that so?" Jun Changshao waited. Elder Wei said, "Sect Master, you can remove the isolation formation and let the recovered spiritual energy spread out so that the entire Iron Bone Mountain can benefit." Yes. Jun Changshao removed the isolation formation one after another. It was just as Elder Wei said. 3 days later, the entire Iron Bone Mountain was releasing spiritual energy endlessly. The density and purity were 10 times higher than before. This meant that the Iron Bone disciples didn't need to enter the spirit gathering formation to absorb 10 times the spiritual energy at any time. This was not the end. The spiritual energy was still being released endlessly. 10 days later, the powerful spiritual energy covered the entire Iron Bone Mountain. The purity had increased by 20 times. Absorbing 1 day's worth of spiritual energy is equivalent to absorbing 20 days' worth of spiritual energy. This is definitely awesome, Jun Changshao said excitedly. He and his disciple had cultivation techniques, spiritual roots, and various martial arts resources. They were not as good as the experts of the Falling Star continent, because they didn't cultivate as long as them. Now that they had 20 times the spiritual energy attribute, they could definitely break through faster and even overtake others. Sect Master Jun had already begun to fantasize about how he and his disciple could quickly improve their cultivation under the high heaven and earth attributes. They would eventually reach the peak and marry a beautiful woman. Sect Master Li Qingyang came to report. The spirit gathering formation has also improved a lot with the improvement of the heaven and earth attributes. The initial estimate is that it is at least 30 times stronger than before. Is that so? Jun Changshao was overjoyed. When he went to the spirit gathering formation, he found that the attributes inside were 20 times stronger than the outside world. The system said, the elementary spirit gathering formation uses the Iron Bone Mountain's attributes to refine stronger spiritual energy. Now that the spiritual energy in the outside world has increased, it will naturally increase as well. Ha ha ha. Jun Changshao laughed loudly with his hands on his hips. 30 times the spiritual energy intensity. Cultivating here for a day is equivalent to cultivating for 30 days. It's simply too awesome. It's quite awesome. The system said. However, if it spreads to the outside world, it will definitely bring about a disaster. Every time he was happy, he would attack Jun Changshao. How annoying. Chapter 410. Although the system liked to pour cold water on him, what it said this time was not without reason. 20 times the heaven and earth attributes gathered in Iron Bone. If word got out, it would definitely attract the attention of various forces. Therefore, he had to think of a way to continue hiding it. I'm still not strong enough, Jun Changshao said helplessly. Otherwise, why would I be afraid of being known by others? An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a jade ring was a crime. However, if one's own strength was so strong that the other party did not dare to provoke them, naturally, no one would dare to have any evil thoughts. Sitting in the study, Jun Changshao began to think of a way. Right, he had a flash of inspiration and said, can't we just control the spirit energy within a certain range? The current situation of Iron Bone Mountain was that there was high spirit energy everywhere. The wider the range, the higher the probability of being discovered. If they were well controlled, and only existed in a fixed place, it would undoubtedly greatly reduce the probability of being discovered. Moreover, with such high spirit energy, there was no need to spread all over the mountain. It was enough to stay in a fixed place, such as a cultivation place or a herb garden. Elder Wei, Jun Changxiao said, "What do you think?" Elder Wei thought for a moment and said, "The spirit energy of Ironbone Mountain is too strong. It's easy to attract attention. It's a good idea for the sect leader to fix it in a certain area." It's settled then. Jun Changxiao began to get busy. He first set up an isolation array in the place where the spirit energy was released, then extended it to the sect, connecting to the spirit gathering array and the herb garden, so that the two would have enough spirit energy to supply. So on. Most of the areas of Ironbone Mountain were isolated from the spirit energy and gradually returned to normal. There was an endless supply of high spirit energy around the spirit gathering array, and the interior was still releasing 30 times the spirit energy intensity. The herb garden also enjoyed high spirit energy, so the medicinal herbs would naturally mature faster. Of course, Jun Changxiao also circled the wolf cave where the hurricane wolves lived. They could enjoy high spirit energy, which would also help them grow and improve their strength. After 2 days of busy work, except for specific areas, Ironbone Mountain, and even Ironbone Mountain, were as ordinary as ever. Even if there were powerhouses here, they would never think that there was a place where spirit energy recovered nearby. Done. After finishing his work, Jun Changxiao entered the spirit gathering array and cultivated for half a day. Feeling that the speed of absorbing spiritual energy had increased a lot compared to before, he suddenly grinned. With 30 times the spiritual energy intensity, regardless of whether it was him or his disciples, they would have the capital to raise their cultivation realm faster. However, he was rather puzzled. The spirit gathering array can increase spiritual energy by 10 times, and the spiritual energy outside is 20 times stronger. How can it be more than 30 times? The system said, the upper limit of a primary spirit gathering array is 30 times. Just like the beginner-grade strength increase talisman sold in the shop, it looked like it could increase one's strength by 5 times. But there was actually an upper limit. If that's the case, Jun Changxiao said, if you want more spiritual energy, you have to use a more advanced spirit gathering array. As he spoke, he took out the Mystic 32 formations. He didn't look at the beginner-grade chapter, but flipped to the middle-grade chapter. Sure enough, he found a middle-grade spirit gathering array. According to the introduction, it could condense spiritual energy 30 times stronger than the outside world. Isn't 20 by 3600 times? Host, you're thinking too much. The system said, this kind of spirit gathering array is converted based on ordinary spiritual energy. After the spiritual energy of Ironbone Mountain increases, it definitely can't be piled up with multiplication. Jun Changxiao ignored it and tried to learn the middle-grade spirit gathering array. In the end, he was dizzy. He kept the Mystic 32 formations back into the interspatial ring, rubbed his temples and said, I'm only a primary array master now, so I can't set up a middle-grade array. The system said, be content with what you have. That's true. From the previous 10 times to 30 times, what was there for him to be dissatisfied with? After Jun Changxiao thought it through, his mood immediately became much better. The increase in spiritual energy in the spirit gathering array brought great benefits to the disciples, and they all entered it to cultivate. In the past, 1 day of cultivation would wait 10 days for the outside world. Now 1 day of cultivation would wait 30 days for the outside world. Therefore, the low-level martial disciples cultivated inside for 1 or 2 days, and they all had a breakthrough. Jun Changxiao also cultivated seriously inside for an entire day. According to the degree of spiritual energy convergence in the spiritual core, it would take at least a month to enter the 6th grade of Wuzong after taking a high-strength spirit gathering pill. Very good. The system said, at this speed, even the top genius of the Falling Star continent may not be able to advance 1 grade in a month by relying on spirit stones every day. Alright, there are still spirit stones. Jun Changxiao hurriedly found Elder Wei and said, the spiritual energy has also recovered. The spirit stone vein should be able to be mined, right? Yes, Elder Wei said. Jun Changshao was delighted and said, "Where to mine?" Elder Wei said, "Where the majestic spiritual energy appears. There must be a spirit stone vein below. Sect master can dig it out." Jun Changshao did not hesitate, and hurriedly contacted Li Qingyang and the others. He took a pick and shovel to the place where the spiritual energy recovered, and began to dig. This time, they did not dig 3 feet into the ground. Instead, they dug more than 500 meters deep, and almost dug up the underground water before they touched the hard stone. Jun Changshao ordered the disciples to continue digging along the surrounding area. They dug a deep pit, and pieces of crystal clear jade the size of a fist appeared in the soil. These were spirit stones. Moreover, they were nurtured by heaven and earth. Sect master, looking at the thousands of spirit stones embedded in the soil layer that blinded the eyes of the titanium alloy, Jiangye said with a burning gaze, "We've only dug out a small piece, and there are already so many. We're going to be rich." Jun Changshao said, "You're a martial king after all. Can't you calm down?" It was precisely because he was a martial king that he deeply understood the importance of spirit stones that he was so excited. Elder Wei said, "Sect master, you must be careful when mining spirit stones. If they break, all the spiritual energy inside will be lost." "Did you all hear that?" Jun Changshao said, "When mining, you must be careful. Whoever breaks one won't be able to eat for 2 days." "Yes," all the disciples shouted in unison. Su Xiaoma took a small pickaxe and started digging in the soil layer first. In the end, he accidentally knocked on a spirit stone. Whoosh! The spiritual energy inside flowed through the gap and instantly flew out, forming a faint cloud of mist. "It's over." Su Xiaoma collapsed inwardly. "I won't be able to eat for 2 days." Elder Wei hurriedly said, "Hurry up and absorb the spiritual energy before it completely dissipates. Absorb as much as you can." Before he finished speaking, he abruptly stopped. Su Xiaomo, Li Fei, and the others had already gone over and merged into the cloud of spiritual energy. They opened their mouths and breathed in and out. What made Elder Wei collapse was that Jiangye also joined in, breathing in and out with the group of disciples. This martial king was really useless. "Sect master." Elder Wei was about to speak when he realized that Jun Changshao, who was standing next to him, had disappeared. He instinctively turned his head and saw that the sect master was also standing in the cloud of mist, breathing in and out with the disciples. In the deep pit, the sect master, the elders, and the disciples breathed in and out at the same time. The scene was very awkward. Chapter 4:11. The spirit qi contained in the natural spirit stone was very wonderful. Jun Changshao and the others could feel that the spirit qi they absorbed was even stronger than eating a high-quality qi gathering pill. And this was only the spirit qi in the process. If they took a complete spirit qi and absorbed it seriously, it would definitely be more satisfying. "Dig, dig, dig," Jun Changshao hurriedly urged. He wanted to empty the entire spirit stone mine and put it into the space ring. Li Qingyang and the others carefully dug. As for Su Xiaoma, he would definitely be given a demerit and would not be able to eat for 2 days. In fact, it was not a problem to not eat for a few days after becoming a martial master. However, not being able to eat Lu Wancher's food was definitely a huge pain. With such a punishment system in place, everyone was extra careful when digging. The sun set in the west. Li Qingyang and the others were covered in mud as they dug out of the deep pit. It seemed that being a disciple of Iron Bone, not only did they have to cultivate martial arts, but they also had to take on various jobs, such as mining now. Baskets of natural spirit stones were placed on the grass. There were at least 5,000 of them. After Jun Changshao counted them, he waved his hand and put them into the space ring. He only gave 1 spirit stone to each disciple who participated in the mining. The rest would be accumulated. This kind of naturally condensed martial Dao resource was limited with every use. It could not be mass-produced like pills, so it had to be carefully considered and planned. Night came. Jun Changshao sat in the spirit gathering formation. holding a freshly harvested spirit stone in his hands. Whoosh whoosh. The majestic spirit chi was guided by his mind and turned into a pure stream of light, entering his body through his mouth and nose. The spirit stones formed naturally were similar in size to those on the market, but the spirit chi they contained was large enough. In one night, Jun Changshao had absorbed 10 spirit stones. Phew, he exhaled and murmured. At this rate, I can enter rank 6 from rank 5 in 2 to 3 days if I keep absorbing and cultivating day and night. It took a month before, but now it only took 2 to 3 days. The speed was especially obvious. Of course, based on the daily intake of 20 spirit stones, it would cost 50 to 60 spirit stones in 2 to 3 days. If it were artificially refined spirit stones, it would definitely cost hundreds of spirit stones. Ordinary people could not afford it at all. The system said, spirit stones are indeed natural. In terms of spirit chi and purity, they are superior to man-made spirit stones. While Martial Arts Symposium, Junchang smiled and said, I hope I can advance from the 5th rank to the 7th rank during this time. Next, he ordered his disciples to continue mining spirit stones while he focused all his energy on cultivation. If he were to be looked down upon by the various sects in the Huashan Martial Arts Symposium, he would be in deep trouble. Only by raising his strength would he have the confidence to stand against them. 3 days later, Jun Changshao successfully advanced from the 5th rank to the 6th rank martial ancestor realm. This was really fast. Because there was no high-efficiency spirit gathering array or high-efficiency spirit gathering pill. Therefore, after cultivating for a while, he opened his eyes and exhaled. It will take at least 6 days to enter rank 7 from rank 6. It doubled. However, he could set off for Hua Mountain to participate in the Martial Arts Symposium. Continue. Jun Changshao took out spirit stones and spirit pills to cultivate again. Except for 1 meal a day, he spent most of his time in the spirit gathering array. In the past 3 days, he had absorbed more than 60 spirit stones. They had lost their spirit chi and were scattered around like stones. Li Qingyang and the others continued to mine spirit stones in the mine. They could dig out about 5,000 spirit stones a day. Although they wanted to use them for cultivation, they still handed them in dutifully. No one would keep them for themselves. The sect leader was so good to him. He gave him all kinds of resources and martial arts techniques. If he touched spirit stones because of his personal desires, he would not be a disciple of the Iron Bone sect. He had to say, the sect that sect leader Jun took care of had a very good atmosphere. If it were other sects, few disciples would be able to resist the temptation of so many spirit stones. They would choose to secretly take a few and put them in their pockets. It was unknown how big the mine was and how many spirit stones there were. The disciples of the Iron Bone sect listened to the sect leader's orders and actively dug every day. 6 days later, Jun Changshao entered rank 7 Wuzong from rank 6. In 9 days, he had absorbed a total of 180 spirit stones. Artificial spirit stones on the market were 10,000 taels each. This kind of large amount of pure spirit stones could be sold for at least 2 to 300,000 taels each. Even if I could use 1,800 artificial spirit stones to help me reach rank 7, I would not be able to do it so quickly. Jun Changshao murmured. The system said, therefore the recovery of spirit chi is a great opportunity for the host and the sect. High spirit chi, high spirit stones. For a martial cultivator, it was a great benefit. Jun Changshao had the spirit gathering array and high spirit pills. Under the combination of multiple factors, it would be easy for him to break through quickly. Opportunity to become stronger. Although spirit stones are strong, there will be a time when the mine will be emptied. Jun Changshao murmured. Therefore, a reasonable distribution is very important. If spirit stones could be inexhaustible, he would definitely let the disciples receive a fixed amount every month, just like the pills. But now he had to plan carefully. Initial thoughts. Inner sect disciples would receive a fixed amount every month. Outer sect disciples could also receive a fixed amount, but it would not be too much. After a period of testing, It could be added as a reward to let them focus more on cultivation. There were also sect missions. If the disciples completed a certain number of missions, or obtained a certain number of contribution points, they would be rewarded accordingly. In short, the disciples had the opportunity to obtain spirit stones. However, they had to rely on their own efforts to obtain them. They could not be given as they wished. Of course, there were still many spirit stones in the mine. Sect leader Jun began to let the disciples enter in batches to dig, instead of always letting a group of people be miners. Although the disciples would not touch the ores out of greed, they still made a rule that anyone who took spirit stones without permission would be expelled from the sect. As for those who destroyed the spirit stones during the mining process, they would continue to starve for 2 days and watch everyone eat Lu Wanshers cooking in the cafeteria. This punishment caused the disciples to howl in their hearts. Some people were even willing to be ruthlessly beaten up and did not want to miss out on Lu Wanshers cooking. Sect leader. In the main hall, Jiangye said seriously, I am an Iron Bone elder. I should be able to receive a fixed amount of spirit stones every month, right? Of course. How much can you receive? 5. Jiangye was startled for a moment and then broke down. Inner sect disciples can receive 20 spirit stones every month. As an elder, how can I only receive 5? Jun Changshao said calmly, 5 spirit stones is the base salary. Base salary? Jiangye was confused. Jun Changshao said, there are many disciples in the outer sect who need someone to teach them. As an elder, don't just focus on cultivating. When you have nothing to do, teach them martial arts. The corner of Jiangye's mouth twitched. Jun Changshao said again, I have already built a Wu Tang class. You will teach them every once in a while. At the end of the month, you will receive a fixed amount of spirit stones, according to the progress of the outer sect disciples. Jiangye patted his chest and said, teaching a group of meridian opening and martial disciples, I am still competent. These words were a bit too full of himself. Little did they know that when this martial king expert faced Shengguan Xingyao, who wanted to get to the bottom of this matter, he crawled out of the Wu Tang class with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. Oh God, save me. Chapter 412. During the 9 days when sect leader Jun was cultivating wholeheartedly, not only did he obtain natural spirit stones, but he also obtained a new batch of medicinal herbs. With the infusion of 20 times the spiritual energy, the newly refined medicinal herbs had terrifying spiritual energy. Jun Changshao refined all of them into qi-gathering pills. After taking one, he realized that it was at least 20 times more effective than ordinary qi-gathering pills. In the past, Elder Wei could only cultivate the medicinal herbs to 15 times the spiritual energy due to the limited environment. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao would definitely be satisfied as long as it could speed up his cultivation. Sect leader, Elder Wei said, this batch of medicinal herbs benefited from their growth, so their spiritual energy hasn't reached the peak yet. The next batch will only be stronger. Peppa the wild boar also contributed to the high spiritual energy of the new medicinal herbs. During this period, it had been diligently nurturing the soil of the herb garden with its earth attribute every day. Not only did it cover the entire area, but it also extended outwards. As the number of disciples increased and their realms increased, they would definitely need more martial arts resources. Elder Wei naturally had to expand the scale of the herb garden. Initial plan. First, it would increase from 10 mu to 100 mu. The disciples of the medicine hall, such as Sun Bukong and the others, had also become medicine masters under Elder Wei's guidance. As the saying goes, great teachers produce great disciples. Although they hadn't been certified, their ability to cultivate medicinal herbs was definitely not something that medicine masters could compare to. Jun Changshao said, I'll have to trouble Elder Wei to plant more herbs to provide more cultivation resources for Iron Bone. As he spoke, he took out 50 natural spirit stones and said, this is Elder Wei's monthly salary. Inner sect disciples could only earn 20 at most. He directly gave 50 of them, and even presented them to them personally. It could be seen that he respected and valued them very much. During this period, The martial arts resources that the disciples consumed were all medicinal herbs refined by Elder Wei. Jun Changshao could treat anyone badly, but he would never treat Elder Wei badly. It could be said that whether the sect could become stronger or not depended on this reclusive expert. Elder Wei shook his head and said, "Even if I absorb the spirit stones, they will dissipate with time. Leave the position of sect leader to the group of children with dreams." The words children revealed the vicissitudes of life and helplessness of an old man. Everyone had a time when they were young, and Elder Wei was no exception. It was just that he had experienced so much and gradually grew old. The dreams that he once persist could only be used as memories. Elder Wei, Jun Chang said with smile, "I will find a way to cure your illness and restore your demeanor as a martial emperor. Then you will follow us youngsters and fight for your dreams." "I hope that day will come," Elder Wei said with a smile. His illness was considered a rare and incurable disease, and the probability of it being cured was 0. However, since he was a member of the Iron Bone faction, he would naturally risk his old bones to help them go further and fly higher. The Iron Bone sect operated as usual, with the spirit stone mining and the disciples cultivating. Jun Changshao stopped cultivating and started thinking about the upcoming martial arts symposium on Mount Hua. For such a grand occasion, it's only natural for a group of people to attend, Li Luoqiu said. "You're right," Jun Changshao said. "Go inform Elder Jiang. Tell him to get ready and follow me to Mount Hua." Li Luoqiu didn't need to inform him. Jiang Ye walked into the main hall with a broken face. As soon as he sat down, he hugged his head and said frantically, "Sect leader, that disciple named Shengguan Xinyao is too scary." Today was the first time he held a Wu-Tang class as an elder. At first it was quite peaceful. The disciples listened with great interest. Some of them even looked enlightened. But when the class was about to end, Shengguan Xinyao stood up and asked about martial arts. She's quite attentive. Elder Jiang admired this female disciple very much, so he answered her questions carefully. In the end, it was a tragedy. Shengguan Xinyao's questions came one after another. Elder Jiang had a headache. When he patiently answered the questions one by one and got up to leave the Wu-Tang class, he suddenly had a feeling of, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Jun Changshao looked at him sympathetically. He was also broken down by Shengguan Xinyao's questions. However, he quickly returned to the topic. "Follow me to Mount Hua tomorrow to participate in the sect's Dao discussion." "Sure," Jiang Ye said. He had been cultivating in the sect for a long time. Other than showing his skills in the life and death arena, he rarely showed his face. "I'm the only elder in Iron Bone now. I should at least give more screen time. I can't let the disciples take all the screen time." Jun Changshao thought for a while and decided to bring Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen and Zhou Hong. As for the other disciples, they continued to cultivate in the sect. Elders and core disciples. Iron Bone could be considered to have sent all the elites to Mount Hua to participate in the sect's Dao discussion. The next day, Lu Wansher prepared a sumptuous meal for the sect leader and the others. After eating, they headed south under the warm farewell of the disciples. The distance between Mount Hua and Iron Bone Mountain was further than Longyang City. However, with wind-type beasts, it was not a problem to travel quickly. Sect leader. On the way, Li Qingyang said, "These hurricane wolves seem to be stronger than before. The beasts absorb the attributes of heaven and earth to increase their cultivation. There are 20 times more spiritual energy in the mountains, so naturally, they'll become stronger." Jiang Ye forced himself to play along. This sentence inspired Jun Changshao. He thought to himself, "If I have time, I can capture more beasts and raise them in the mountains. First, I can regularly obtain beast meat and crystal cores. Other people raised animals, such as cows, sheep, chickens, and ducks. This guy planned to raise beasts in the mountains. This idea was a little scary. They had just climbed a few mountains and crossed a few rivers. Why were there so many rugged roads? Go to hell. The mountains are more dangerous, and the water is more evil. They have encountered difficulties and suffered hardships, but the road to heaven is wide and wide." This was the opening song in the sequel of Journey to the West. It could be used to describe the difficulties of sect leader Jun and the group of disciples. Of course, they didn't encounter any monsters on the way. Instead, they encountered bandits. Everyone, sitting on a huge rock, Jun Changshao, who was eating skewers, said speechlessly, "They didn't even say their lines and came out to rob. This doesn't conform to the rules of the underworld." Around him, 70 to 80 fierce-looking bandits with swords and sabers surrounded him and his disciples. Rules of the underworld? The bandit leader was startled and said, "Could it be that we're in the same profession?" Shua. Jun Changshao threw away the skewers, put his hands behind his back, and said loudly, "The earth shakes the mountain. A stream of mountains is eternal beauty." Bandit leader? Bandit members? Shua. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others stood up and shouted, "The door faces the sea. The Sanha River flows for 10,000 years. The bandit leader immediately understood. This was definitely a secret signal in the underworld. However, he had been in the underworld for so long, and he had only heard of the secret signal of the heavenly king covering the earth tiger, and the pagoda suppressing the river demon. He had never heard of a stream of mountains is eternal beauty. Whoosh! At this moment, a cold light flashed in front of his eyes. Yi Xingchen held a sword in his left hand and ate a skewer with his other hand. He said coldly, "Trash, you should die and go back to the garbage dump." Plop! The bandit leader's legs went soft, and he immediately knelt on the ground. A sword mark appeared on his neck. "Boss!" the bandits exclaimed in unison. "Shua! Shua!" They waved their swords and sabers angrily. And then, before they could make a move, they saw dense sword shadows exploding toward them. Clang! Clang! Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others sheathed their swords. When the sword chi dissipated, the 80 bandits around them all fell to the ground and died. Jun Changshao looked up at the mountain in the distance and murmured, "Let's go to the bandits' lair and rob them." Chapter 413. There was a mountain in the area where Jun Changshao was. It was called Lingshan. There was a Lingshan village on the mountain. There were about 300 to 500 bandits gathered there. They killed and robbed people all year round. Many innocent people had died under their blades. Sins committed by the heavens could be forgiven, but sins committed by oneself could not be forgiven. This saying was not wrong at all. At this moment, every bandit in the village who had blood on their hands was lying dead on the ground. The fresh blood that flowed out was stinky. Plop! The leader of the Lingshan village knelt on the ground. His eyes were filled with horror and despair. So many of his men had been killed in such a short time. What kind of big shot did that damned second head offend when he went down the mountain to rob people? He did not offend any big shots. He only offended Iron Bone and Jun Changshao. "Friend, friend." The leader of the Lingshan village begged in a trembling voice, "Please, please spare my worthless life." He did not want to die. He wanted to live. "Spare?" Jun Changshao, who was standing in front of him, pointed to the right and said, "Ask them if they agree." There were many corpses that had died not long ago. Judging from their clothes, there were commoners, businessmen, tourists, and many children. There were many wounds on their bodies. It was obvious that they had been tortured before they died. The female corpses that were slightly more beautiful were not dressed properly. They must have been raped when they were alive. Friend, friend, they are all dead. How do I ask? The leader of the Lingshan village said. Ask them in the netherworld. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Qianqian swung her sword and beheaded the leader of the Lingshan village. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "It is too easy to kill someone who is worse than an animal." He made a solemn statement again. Our sect leader Jun was not a good person, but he was not a bad person either. When he encountered such a heartless bandit group, he would kill them all. He would not show any mercy. You could say that he was getting rid of evil for the people. But in fact, Li Qingyang reported, "Sect leader, we have found the treasury." Jun Changshao asked, "How much is there?" Not bad. He exterminated this group of bandits because he couldn't stand how inhumane they were. His true motive was to rob them. Li Qingyang said, 50,000 taels of gold, 3 million taels of banknotes, and various materials. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "Are there any bandits on the way to Mount Hua? If there is, we will choose that path." This was robbery. He was addicted to it. Sect leader. Li Qingyang handed over a sheepskin scroll and said, "I found a treasure map in the treasury." Treasure map? Jun Changshao took it and unfolded it. There was a complicated topography carved on it. This was obviously a map. In the center of the map, there was an eye-catching red cross as a mark. At the bottom right corner of the map, there was a small line of words. The content was, "Do thou want my treasure? If you want it, then come here and look for it." So fucking direct. Jun Changshao casually put it into his spatial ring and complained, "Do you think you're the pirate king? Just one sentence, and you want me to look for it?" He didn't take this ancient map to heart at all. Whoosh whoosh. The stronghold was engulfed in flames. Jun Changshao left with his disciples. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission. Getting rid of evil for the people too. You have gained 500 contribution points. Ding! Contribution points. 1950500. Jun Changshao was stunned and said, "There's actually 2 missions for getting rid of evil for the people." When he exterminated the Haifeng stronghold, he completed the mission once. Now he was exterminating the Lingshan stronghold again. It was really unexpected. The system said, if there are 2 epic-level missions, there must be hidden missions too. Will there be 3, 4, 5? Jun Changshao asked. The system said, the host needs to explore this on his own. I won't tell you even if I know. Fuck. If there were bandits on that path, he would choose that path. This was something that Jun Changshao had said casually. But he had put it into action the moment he completed the task of ridding the world of evil. Whoosh whoosh. After walking for a few hundred miles, a bandit stronghold on a nameless mountain was burned to ashes. All the bandits who had done evil were also killed. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission. Getting rid of evil for the people 3. You have gained 500 contribution points. Ding! Contribution points. 2450500. Indeed, Jun Changshao was overjoyed. As long as I eliminate these bandits, I can complete the mission of getting rid of evil for the people. From the first, second, and third missions, it's more like a series of missions. Search. Continue searching. Originally, he was going to participate in the Mount Hua Martial Arts Symposium. However, after Jun Changshao discovered the special feature of the hidden mission, he turned his attention to the bandits. Unfortunately, after searching for a few hundred miles on the Hurricane Wolf King and climbing over a few mountains, he only found one bandit group. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission. Getting rid of evil for the people 4. You have gained 500 contribution points. Ding! Contribution points. 2950500. After eliminating the third evil force, Jun Changshao received another reward. This made him very happy. It's too easy to earn contribution points. If it's getting rid of evil for the people, I don't have to do anything in the future. I can just search for bandits and kill them. The next day, Jun Changshao led his disciples and continued to search for bandits in the mountains. He couldn't wait for them to come and rob him. Everyone else tried their best to hide, and even prayed that they wouldn't be discovered when they were traveling. His method of actively searching was quite amazing. Hard work paid off. Jun Changshao found another group of bandits on another mountain. The group was quite large, with more than 500 bandits. The bandit leader's cultivation was quite good. He had actually reached the level of stage 1 Wuzong. In the hall of the stronghold, Jun Changshao sat on a tiger skin chair and crossed his legs. With such cultivation, why don't you find a decent job and become a bandit? Don't you think you're wronging yourself? The bandit leader was a middle-aged man. Although Li Qingyang's cold-edged sword was on his neck, he still held his head high and said, "You can kill me or cut me up as you wish." Oh, Jun Changshao was quite surprised. Although this person was a bandit, he didn't have a violent aura. Instead, he gave off the feeling that he was a soldier. Jun Changshao rubbed his nose and said, You're a soldier? A hint of pain appeared in the bandit leader's eyes, but he easily covered it up. He said, if I'm a soldier, how can I be a bandit here? Sect leader, Jiangye said, although this group of bandits is weak, they are very disciplined. It's obvious that they have undergone strict military training. Jun Changshao looked at the bandit leader and rubbed his chin. So this guy isn't just a soldier. He might even be a general. Jiangye said, a general becoming a bandit. This is a man with a story. Jun Changshao stood up and walked to the bandit leader. He said, when I came in, I didn't see any corpses or bloodstains. You shouldn't be one of those heartless bandits, right? I don't kill innocent people. I only kill those high officials and nobles who harm the common people. The bandit leader said proudly. Jun Changshao cupped his fists and said, so you're a bandit who steals from the rich to help the poor. Sorry for the disrespect. Sect leader, Li Qingyang used telepathy and said, this person shouldn't be a heinous person. Why don't you let him go? Jun Changshao said, the sect still lacks more than 2,000 disciples. It's impossible to let him go. No matter what, we have to take him in for our own use. That's a good idea. Li Qingyang agreed. Jun Changshao looked at the bandit leader and said, being a bandit in the mountains is really a bit hard on yourself. Join my Ironbone sect and do something big with me. Ironbone sect. The bandit leader was stunned and said, are you talking about the Ironbone sect? Chapter 414. My Ironbone sect's reputation is so high that even the bandits thousands of miles away have heard of it. Jun Changshao said, that's right. You call yourself this seat. Could it be that you are the second sect leader of the Ironbone sect, Jun Changshao? The bandit leader said. TSK. Jun Changshao said. You even know that I am the second sect leader. It seems that you have asked around a lot. The bandit leader said. You brought a group of disciples and killed your way into Huayang County, destroying 4 evil sects in a row. I admire such a chivalrous person who helps the people get rid of evil, so I will naturally ask around. Chivalrous person? Jun Changshao did not dare to accept it, whether it was destroying the evil sects or eliminating the bandits. The real reason was not to get rid of evil for the people. Since you admire me so much, why don't you join the Ironbone sect? Jun Changshao said. The bandit leader said, how can you prove that you are the Ironbone sect leader? Jun Changshao immediately collapsed. The Long family did not believe it, and the bandits did not believe it either. I, the sect leader, have been fooled. Pa! The sect leader's seal was pressed on the table. Jun Changshao picked up the paper, pointed at the seal on it and said, do you believe me now? The bandit leader said, this kind of sect leader's seal, the town can make 4 or 5 of them for 1 silver. Even the imperial jade seal can be imitated. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. However, when he thought about how Sun Bukong took out all kinds of great emperor successor tokens, he felt that it was not too difficult to make a fake sect leader's seal in another world. If you believe me, then you are the Ironbone sect leader? Jun Changshao said. The bandit leader said, I heard that Ironbone has a kind of spiritual force type martial technique that can be continuously used. Shio streams of crescent-shaped light streaked through the air and flew out of the hall, crashing into the mountain wall. Jun Changshao retracted his hand and said, You're talking about this move? The bandit leader's eyes widened. Naturally, he could tell that his opponent was using a spiritual power type martial skill to be able to slash out so many of them in one go. And the power was so strong. It was definitely the same as the rumors. I heard that there's a disciple from the Ironbone sect who has an extremely strong body. He even won the grand tournament of the Azure Sun County. Bang! 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 Jun Changshao raised his fist and punched Xiao Ziji's chest a few times. Are you talking about him? The bandit leader was dumbfounded. This guy's punch had a force of at least 100,000 kilograms. Not only did that martial cultivator take it head-on, he didn't even take a step back. Just how strong was his physical body? Shua. The bandit leader cupped his hands and said, If Sect Master Jun doesn't mind, this Shue is willing to follow you. In fact, When Jun Changshao said that he was the sect master of the Iron Bone sect, he was a little convinced. After all, these martial cultivators were very young and strong, which matched the information he heard. During this period of time, the bandit leader had been asking around about the Iron Bone sect. He learned about all kinds of things, especially the Demon Annihilation sect, which made him admire them even more. Since they wanted to recruit him, he was definitely willing to join. Jun Changshao asked Li Qingyang to put away his sword and took out the entry form. Name: Shuirengui. Shuirengui? An ancient famous general of Wuxia. Just because of this name, I'm going to take you in. Pa. Jun Changshao stamped the entry form directly. After hearing the notification of the addition of disciples and contribution points, he said, "From today onwards, you're the disciple of the Iron Bone sect. Taking in a Wuzong, how wonderful." Moreover, from the arrogant aura he exuded, he was definitely a soldier who had fought on the battlefield. The Wolf Rider Hall happened to be lacking a leader. If he was capable, it would be good to let him be the leader. Swoosh. Shuirengui cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, sect leader." Becoming a bandit was a helpless move. Now that he had joined the Iron Bone clan, which had risen to fame, it was a wise choice. More than 500 bandits with low cultivation levels surrounded the hall, with 3 layers of spears in their hands. Under normal circumstances, bandits' standard weapon was a large ringed sword, but these people used spears or spears. It was obvious that they were more like professionally trained soldiers. A bunch of trash. Yi Xingchen held his sword and stood at the door. His cold eyes were filled with disdain. As long as the sect leader gave the order, he would make sure that this bunch of trash would die and return to the junkyard as soon as possible. Night Emperor was strong. Unfortunately, after waiting for a long time, he did not receive the order. Yi Xingchen could not help but mutter in his heart, "This is not like the sect leader's style." What style? When he entered the territory of an evil force, as long as he saw innocent people die tragically, he would say decisively, "Kill them all, leave no one alive. Put down your weapons." Shuirengui walked out of the hall and shouted in a deep voice. The subordinates listened to their boss's order and threw their weapons on the ground. This kind of absolute obedience and discipline. Who would believe that they were bandits? "Brothers," Shuirengui said, "I have already joined Iron Bone. If any of you are willing to follow me, then stay and find a better job. You can leave now." He joined Iron Bone? What's going on? Although everyone was shocked, they still shouted, "Wherever boss goes, we will go." Since boss has joined Iron Bone, we are willing to join too. Pa Li Qingyang placed the table outside, and Xiao Ziji placed the chair. Jun Changshao sat down and said, "Then hurry up and sign up one by one." Ding. Sect member 2015500. Ding. Sect contribution points 1952500. After taking in more than 500 well-trained bandits, the number of members increased from 2014 to 2,525. He had also obtained 511 contribution points, increasing his contribution points from 2,950 to 3,461. Jun Changshao thought, "This martial arts symposium on Mount Hua is quite rewarding." Huff huff. The mountain stronghold burned under the fire. The fire was set by Shuirengui, because joining Iron Bone meant starting from scratch, and the identity of a bandit was a thing of the past. "Tell us your story," Jun Changshao said on the way down the mountain. Shuirengui hesitated for a moment and sighed. "Sect leader guessed right. I am not only a soldier but also a general." "Why did you become a bandit?" Because Shuirengui stopped and clenched his fists, and said with great courage, "I became a deserter." Li Qingyang and the others were surprised. Just now, he was being held by a sword and could die at any moment, but he could still act like a man of iron. But now he became a deserter. This was really unexpected. "Why did you become a deserter?" Jun Changshao asked. Shuirengui said, "Because I received an order to slaughter a town full of ordinary people. You thought it was cruel, so you ran away?" "That's right. A soldier's nature is to follow orders," Jun Changshao said. "As a general of an army, You didn't follow orders and deserted. You shouldn't have done that. So the moment I took off my armor, I was no longer worthy of the word soldier. Xuerengui's eyes were filled with complicated emotions, but there was no regret. If he could go back in time and choose again, he still wouldn't hurt the innocent people. And those people were from his own country. A soldier's duty was to protect the country. Using weapons to kill the people he protected was something he couldn't do. A military order was like a mountain. If he didn't follow it, he would be dismissed and punished. So, he could only lead a group of trusted subordinates to become deserters, and then occupy a mountain, becoming a bandit who killed the rich to help the poor. This was Xuerengui's story. A man who would rather go against the nature of a soldier and become a bandit than use weapons to kill the innocent. I hope you can follow orders and not become a deserter again, Jun Changshao said. Xuerengui said seriously. As long as sect leader doesn't kill the innocent, I am willing to go through water and tread on fire for Ironbone until my death. 3. Chapter 4:15. He definitely couldn't bring too many people to participate in the sect's martial arts competition. Jun Changshao threw an Ironbone token to Xuerengui and let him lead his men back to Ironbone first. The Ironbone token was engraved with the words, Ironbone Unyielding. He had found a blacksmith to make it in Qingyang City to represent his sect's identity. Sect leader, Jiangye said. Xuerengui is a talented leader. He can be the leader of the Wolf Rider Hall. I also have this plan. Jun Changshao was silent for a moment, then said. However, it will depend on his performance. He had just been accepted into the sect, so there was a period of observation. If he was satisfied, he would definitely be given to the leader. Everyone continued to walk towards Mount Hua. On the way, they naturally didn't forget to look for bandits. Huff huff. A raging fire burned. Another bandit organization full of evil was destroyed by Jun Changshao and his disciples. When he walked down the mountain, a notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission. Getting rid of evil for the people 5. You have received 500 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points. 3961500. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the series of missions, Getting rid of evil for the people. You have received 1000 contribution points, and the title Chivalrous Warrior. Ding! Sect contribution points. 4961500. Damn! Jun Changshao suddenly opened his eyes wide. As he guessed, getting rid of evil for the people was a series of missions. But he didn't expect to receive 1000 contribution points, let alone a title. Jun Changshao hurriedly opened the attribute panel. Sect leader, Jun Changshao. There was an additional chivalrous warrior suffix. Tapping on his name, a small attribute panel appeared. Host Jun Changshao. Luck 1, title, Little Prince of Expense. Title attribute, Luck +1. Available title, Chivalrous Warrior replace. Tapping on the replace. The title changed from Little Prince of Expense to Chivalrous Warrior. The luck value changed from the previous 1 to 5. Jun Changshao said in surprise. This title adds so much luck value, the system said. So doing good deeds will be rewarded. Jun Chang said with a smile. Now that we've completed this series of quests, does it mean that we won't be rewarded when we kill bandits in the future? That's right, the system said. Jun Changshao was a little dizzy. How good would it be if there were no restrictions? Since the mission was Chivalrous Warrior, Chivalrous Warrior, Chivalrous Warrior, Chivalrous Warrior, Chivalrous Warrior, Chivalrous Warrior, a chivalrous, and righteously. In the end, he still destroyed them and took away all their assets. Jun Changshao increased the number of weapons he could refine to the maximum, and refined them in one click. On the trip to the 10,000 Beast mountain range, he obtained a lot of cold iron. There were still hundreds of mid-grade cold light swords in his interspatial ring. Jun Changshao did not plan to give these weapons to his disciples for the time being. He would not reserve any basic facilities and martial arts resources for his disciples. But the higher and limited items, such as spirit stones and cold light swords, naturally needed to be exchanged with hard work. Mount Hua. The spiritual energy was not too strong, but the scenery was exceptionally beautiful, especially the clouds and mist lingering halfway up the mountain, making people feel as if they were in a fairyland. At the foot of the mountain, many sect elders brought their disciples over from all directions. They gathered in the open space, and there were as many as 600 to 700 of them. They warmly greeted their acquaintances. Patriarch Wang, we haven't seen each other in a while. Patriarch Sun, your aura has become stronger again. I guess your cultivation has improved a lot? You flatter me. Polite words were endless, but it was unknown whether they were sincere or not. The sect martial arts competition was held on the mountain, so why were they gathered at the foot of the mountain? Because this kind of grand event had a segment in the past, and that was to see which sect could reach the top of the mountain first. They were all experts, so why were they competing in climbing? Little did they know that a long time ago, many sect formation masters had jointly set up an imposing array on the long stairs from the foot of the mountain to the top. Usually, the array was hidden in the dark and could not be detected. Every time the sect martial arts competition was held, it would be activated. The martial cultivators who climbed the mountain would have to endure a strong force of obstruction. The higher the cultivation, the stronger the force of obstruction. In the beginning, this was a small thing that a few elders made out of boredom. As the number of sects participating increased, it became an important segment. To be honest, the sect martial arts competition, it was actually a grand event with the nature of competition. The forces that came to participate naturally would not fall behind others. Therefore, the climbing segment was definitely an open competition, and no one was willing to submit to the other. As they chatted, Patriarch Sun smiled and said, Patriarch Wang, our sect was a step behind in the last martial arts competition. This time, we will definitely be a step behind your sect. Ha ha ha. Patriarch Wang smiled and said, that's hard to say. Just as everyone was talking and waiting, the disciples of Miahua Palace led by Shi Jingxian arrived, and immediately became the focus of everyone's attention. There were at least 20 to 30 fifth-rate sects participating in the Mount Hua martial arts competition, but there were very few fourth-rate sections. As for third-rate sects, there was either none or only one in the past. To put it bluntly, it was a sect that wasn't too large in scale. Lier, Shi Jingxian said. Is Sect Master Jun here? No. Lier looked around and did not see Jun Changshao or Ironbone disciples. She immediately heaved a sigh of relief. She did not want the palace master to have too much interaction with Jun Changshao. Didn't he say that he was coming? Shi Jingxian murmured with a hint of sadness in her voice. Lier said, Ironbone is only a seventh-rate sect. They will only become a laughing stock if they participate in the sect martial arts competition. It is wise not to come. Everyone. At this moment, a big shot of a fourth-rate sect said loudly, almost everyone is here. We can go up the mountain together. Let's go, let's go. Everyone agreed. Sigh. Shi Jingxian sighed bitterly and led the disciples up the mountain. Buzz. Buzz. As soon as they stepped on the first step, faint ripples appeared. The big shots and disciples of the various sects merged into the array in an orderly manner and began to climb up the mountain. What followed was a gurgling force. At first, they were still able to walk as if they were flying, but as they climbed higher and higher, their speed gradually slowed down and their foreheads more or less dripped with sweat. Zooming out, they could clearly see that the people of the various sects were in a line on the winding mountain path. 2 hours. Everyone had only reached the halfway point of the mountain. However, just as they continued to climb, Jun Changshao and his disciples slowly arrived at the foot of the mountain. Sect Master. Jiangye looked up and said, they went up. Let's go. Jun Changshao led his disciples up the stairs. As soon as they stepped onto the stairs and merged into the barrier, he said in surprise, there's an array? Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, a gurgling special force spread over. Li Qingyang said solemnly, Sect Master, this aura is very similar to the gravity on the first floor of the Experience Tower. That's right, Jun Changshao said. Jiangye said, Who would be so bored as to set up an array on the stairs? Jun Changshao looked up and looked at the martial cultivators who had reached the halfway point of the mountain. He muttered, "If I'm not wrong, this should be a test of the Mount Hua martial arts competition to see who can reach the top first." "TSK," Yi Xingchen said disdainfully, "this force is much weaker than the experience tower. It will be easy to reach the top." Clap. Jun Changshao clapped his hands and grinned. "So it's time for my iron bone to show off." Chapter 416. It turned out that the array set up on the stairs of Mount Hua had the same restrictive force as the training tower's gravity. It was no wonder that the martial cultivators of the various sects found it more and more difficult to climb, taking 2 hours to reach the halfway point. Jun Changshao, who was walking like a snail or an ox, had just led his disciples into the array and stepped on the first step when they felt the gravitational force permeating the air. To be honest, they only felt the gravitational force, but the pressure it produced was almost equal to nothing. The gravity on the first level of the training tower was 10 times stronger, and the gravity here was at most 5 times stronger. So it was not worth mentioning at all. Looking up at the martial cultivators of the various sects who were climbing the mountain, Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, "Catch up with them and surpass them." Yes, the disciples received the order and stepped forward. It could be said that they were flying. Not to mention these elite disciples. Even Li Tiantian, Sima Zhongda, and the others could easily climb the mountain. After all, they usually went to the first level of the training tower to train for 2 to 4 hours. Because of their personalities, Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji climbed the mountain at a moderate pace. If Su Xiaoma and Li Fei were present, they would have run up the mountain long ago. Jun Changshao admired the clouds and cliffs of Mount Hua along the way. He could not help but sigh. This world is rich in spirit qi, and the mountains and rivers nurtured are incomparable to those of earth. Whoosh whoosh with every step they climbed, the gravitational force whizzed over. Jun Changshao and Jiang Ye's expressions did not change. They climbed 1 step at a time. It could be said that they were stable. In terms of speed, it would take at most 10 minutes to catch up with the martial cultivators who were 1 step ahead. Then there were the various forces that participated in the sections. At this time, although they had climbed halfway, their faces were flushed and their breathing was rapid. The various big shots looked very calm, but they were quite uncomfortable inside. The 5 times gravitational force around the stairs exerted pressure, according to the martial artist's cultivation. High-level martial cultivators were no weaker than low-level martial cultivators. "Palace Master," Lear said, "Are you okay?" Because she had to climb while supporting the Palace Master. She was already drenched in sweat. Shi Jingxian said, "I'm fine." He was really fine because his breathing was steady, and there was no fluctuation on his face. Lear couldn't help but secretly say, "Although Palace Mistress has an eye disease and looks very delicate, she has great willpower. The power of obstruction can't do anything to her. It's just that, just like last time, I and my fellow disciples will be dragging them down again." The Wondrous Flower Palace had participated in the previous sect martial arts competition. At that time, Shi Jingxian had also completely ignored gravity. Unfortunately, the disciples were all exhausted. Even though Li Er and the other disciples had gained some experience, they were only slightly better than the previous batch. It was impossible for them to climb all the way to the top of the mountain in one go. "Ai," Shi Jingxian sighed and said, "Sect Master Jun didn't come. It feels so boring." "Palace Master," Lear said, "Fortunately that fellow didn't come. Otherwise, I'm afraid he would have long been paralyzed on the stairs." Although she acknowledged the strength of Jun Changshao and the Iron Bone disciples, it was the first time they had to endure the resistance and climb halfway up the mountain. They must have been exhausted long ago. Shi Jingxian shook her head and said, "Sect Master Jun is extraordinary. Maybe climbing the mountain here isn't difficult for him." Lear was completely speechless. They had only interacted a few times, but the Palace Master was already so concerned about him and had such high hopes for him. Plop! Right then, A martial cultivator who was walking in front sat down on the stairs with his legs wobbly. He panted heavily and said, I can't go on. I have to rest for a while. What a good-for-nothing. The patriarch of the sect was so angry that he blew his beard and glared at his disciple when he saw him collapse first. He did not dare to reprimand too much because he had to endure the pressure of gravity as well. Otherwise, he might not be able to catch his breath and collapse as well. There would be a limit to enduring 5 times the gravity. In the following period of time, more and more martial cultivators collapsed on the ground, unable to bear the pressure and fell behind. Some disciples of the advanced sects were still gritting their teeth and persevering. Even though every step was extremely difficult, they were still trying their best to overcome it and surpass themselves. At this moment, reaching the top of the mountain was no longer for the glory of the sect, but for their own dignity. Patriarch Sunday, Patriarch Wang went up 2 more steps and laughed. There are a lot of disciples from your sect who have fallen behind. It seems that it is not as good as the previous session. Patriarch Song was angry in his heart, but he also said, there are also a lot of disciples from Patriarch Wang who have fallen behind. We are the same. Patriarch Wang said, in my opinion, this time my Azure Water sect will be 1 step ahead of your Blue Jade sect and reach the top of the mountain first. We are only halfway up the road. It is still hard to say who will win. Patriarch Song said and no longer said anything. He put all his thoughts on climbing the mountain, vowing to suppress the Azure Water sect and reach the top first. Patriarch Wang was also the same. This so-called climb was actually a kind of competition. Sects of the same level would definitely not condescend to be inferior to others. Instead, they wanted to prove that they were stronger than the other party. Of course, in this extremely long staircase, the one in the lead was a 4th-rate sect. From the patriarch to the disciples, it was at least 50 to 60 steps away from the 2nd-ranked sect. Don't underestimate this distance. Even if they stopped to rest, it would still take a lot of time for the martial cultivators behind to reach the top while enduring the gravity. Similarly, a 4th-rate sect, the Mystic Flower Palace had fallen behind many of the 5th-rate sects due to the weakening of their disciples. It couldn't be helped. A female-dominated sect would definitely not be comparable to the male martial cultivators in terms of stamina and endurance. Patriarch. At the front was a personal disciple from the 4th-rate Qianhai sect. He looked back at the martial cultivators who were left far behind and spoke with difficulty. We are finally going to reach the top first. The Qianhai sect's palace master said proudly. As long as there are no 3rd-rate sects involved, we are 90% certain. He had brought his disciples to participate in the Huashan martial discus many times, and had reached the top of Huashan as the 2nd-ranked. Even if they lost, it was to the 3rd-rate sections. This time, without the participation of the 3rd-rate sects, they could finally reach the top first. The Qianhai sect might still be in the lead, but they were also affected by the gravity. As they climbed higher, their speed gradually decreased. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. This is more tiring than fighting the beasts for 3 days and 3 nights. The formation on the Huashan staircase is indeed worthy of its reputation. More and more martial cultivators collapsed on the staircase in exhaustion. They took in deep breaths, and their legs felt as heavy as lead. It was difficult for them to continue climbing without resting. At this moment, a martial cultivator at the very end heard footsteps coming from below. He looked up with difficulty. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thud, thud, thud. 2, 2, 3, 4. Thud, thud, thud. 3, 2, 3, 4. Thud, thud, thud. Oh my God! The martial cultivator who had fallen behind first and sat paralyzed on the ground, his eyes suddenly became round and round, his 2 ears perked up. Chapter 417. When a person was extremely tired and could still make a dumbfounded expression, it meant that he had seen something extremely shocking. The martial cultivator who had fallen behind was now dumbfounded, his eyes filled with disbelief. What did he see? He saw a group of martial cultivators dressed in bright clothes, led by a young man in white who was shouting slogans. taking small steps up the mountain in an orderly manner. Jun Changshao and the Ironbone disciples. Their movements were synchronized, their expressions did not change, and they looked extremely relaxed. If they had just climbed up the stairs, it would be considered normal. But the key point was that they were now halfway up the mountain. For martial cultivators who could climb up to this point, it was already very difficult for them to climb up each step. Jun Changshao led his disciples and shouted slogans as they stepped up. The scene was absolutely shocking, absolutely unbelievable. The martial cultivator who was paralyzed on the ground tried hard to blink his eyes, making sure that he did not see wrongly. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said, Who is this? 4234. At this moment, Jun Changshao led his disciples and walked past them. At such a close distance, one could even see that they had smiles on their faces. They could still smile? Or could it be that they simply ignored the obstructive force of the array? Shocking. It deeply disturbed the martial cultivator, who had fallen behind first. This was just the beginning. Just 100 steps up, Jun Changshao led his disciples and overtook 30 to 50 martial cultivators who were paralyzed on the ground. My God! Who are they? How can they climb the mountain so quickly? Is it because I'm too tired that I'm hallucinating? The martial cultivators who were overtaken all stared with their eyes wide open. The martial cultivators who were working hard in the front all turned back when they heard the sound of footsteps coming from behind. When they saw Sect leader Jun leading his disciples up the mountain calmly, they almost lost their balance and fell down. Damn it! This is a monster! Jun Changshao originally planned to climb the mountain at a normal speed, but seeing that the martial cultivators at the front were already very close to the peak, he led his disciples to increase their speed. The result? All the disciples of the major sects were completely stunned. 1 2 3 4. 2 2 3 4. As the slogan was shouted again and again, the disciples began to climb up the mountain in an orderly manner. Very soon, they had surpassed nearly 60% of the martial cultivators who had climbed the mountain in advance. What was even worse was that after climbing to such a height, Jun Changshao and his disciples only felt a little hot. They were far from sweating and panting. They were used to 10 times the gravity, so walking on the stairs with only 5 times the gravity was like walking on flat ground. At this time, if Jun Changshao gave the order that whoever reached the summit first would be rewarded with natural spirit stones, our Knight Emperor would definitely rush up with all his might. More and more martial cultivators heard the commotion and turned their heads to see Ironbone and the others. Originally, they could still hold on for a while, but in the end, they were so shocked that their minds were in a mess, and they all collapsed to the ground, unable to stand up again. Jun Changshao led his disciples and walked past the crowd one by one. Soon, he had passed 80% of the disciples and was only 400 to 500 steps away from the Haiqian sect. Lier, who was walking in front, also heard the voice. She felt that it was a little familiar, so she went back with difficulty. The expression on her face froze. It's him. It's Jun Changshao. Sect Master. Li Qingyang said. The people from Miaohua Palace are in front. Jun Changshao also saw them, so he said loudly, Disciples, listen up. Increase your speed. Yes. Thump. 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 Li Qingyang and the others increased their speed by a lot. Their legs alternated frequently, and in a short while they had climbed 40 to 50 steps. The martial cultivators at the back were deeply shocked when they saw that this group of martial cultivators could still increase their speed and climb so quickly. Leah, Shi Jingxian said happily. It seems to be Sect Master Jun's voice. Lear didn't say anything. Seeing Jun Changshao and his disciples climbing up to the top of the mountain had left her in a daze. Earlier, she was still saying that Ironbone would fall behind if he came. In the end, not only did he not fall behind, but he even caught up with them even though he was a step late. What was this? That's right, he pretended to be cool first, and then slapped them in the face. To be honest, Sect Master Jun wasn't deliberately pretending to be cool and slapping them in the face. He just didn't expect that there would be an array at the top of Mount Hua. This kind of gravity pressure is something that my iron-bone sect's disciples use to cultivate on a daily basis. If we can't climb up and fall behind others, then it's really unreasonable. Therefore, an invisible act of pretentiousness was the most fatal. Palace Master Shi. Jun Changshao walked over quickly and walked side by side with Shi Jingxian. He changed to a normal climbing pace and said, "There was a traffic jam on the way, so I'm a step late." Traffic jam? Shi Jingxian was confused. Jun Changshao was just casually saying and naturally wouldn't explain. Instead, he smiled and said, "There is an array at the top of the stairs, and there is a force of obstruction. Palace Master Shi, are you tired after climbing to this height?" The corners of Lier's mouth twitched slightly. "Yes, there is an array, and there is a force of obstruction. But you and your disciples look like you're taking a stroll. Do you have to be so scary?" Shi Jingxian said shyly. "No, not too tired." Noticing that her breathing was even when she spoke, Jun Changshao said to himself, "This woman is not simple. Since you're not tired, why don't you and I climb up first and see how small the mountains are? I'm not tired, but Lier and the rest are." Because of her eye disease, Shi Jingxian would be a little inconvenient. Without the help of her disciples, it would be very difficult to climb to the top of the mountain. "Miss Lier," Jun Changshao said, "I see that you don't look good. I think you're almost at your limit. Why don't you let Jun help Palace Master Shi to the top of Mount Hua?" No, Lier firmly objected. However, because she spoke with force, coupled with the previous shock, her legs suddenly went soft and she collapsed on the stairs. Without Lier's support, Shi Jingxian, who was about to start climbing, suddenly swayed. Swish! Sect leader Jun's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He hurriedly came over and placed his arm on her back in a gentlemanly manner. "Palace Master Shi, if you don't mind, how about I help you to the top of the mountain?" This, Shi Jingxuan's small face blushed and she whispered, "Okay, Palace Master." Lier had just opened her mouth with difficulty when sect leader Jun helped Shi Jingxian up the stairs. In a short while he pulled away from her. Despicable guy. How dare he take advantage of the Palace Master? Lier was infuriated, but because of her weak body, she could only watch as Jun Changshao abducted her Palace Master. At the front of the stairs to the top of the mountain, the patriarch and disciples of the Haiqian sect were still working hard to climb up. Although they were ahead of the other forces, they were under the pressure of the higher gravity. At this moment, they were sweating profusely, and their legs were weak. Almost there. Our Haiqian sect can finally be the first to reach the top. What belongs to us is ours. No one can take it away. The disciples of the Haiqian sect gritted their teeth and struggled to climb up. To them, the top of the mountain could be seen clearly. It was a supreme honor. The patriarch of the Haiqian sect was also a little excited. In the past, he had always been at the back, watching the third-rate sects reach the top first. Now the wheel of fortune had turned, and it was finally his turn. Just as they were about to reach the top, the patriarch of the Haiqian sect finally couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted loudly, releasing the grievances of being second place in the past few years. "Sorry." Suddenly, a voice by his ear interrupted his venting. "Please make way." Jie, the patriarch of the Haiqian sect's expression froze, and he looked to the side. In his field of vision, a handsome young man in white was supporting the palace master of the miraculous flower palace, who was an outstanding beauty, as they walked up. Yes, they walked up. And the kind that was calm and composed. The patriarch of the Haiqian sect was instantly stunned, and a billion alpacas ran wildly in his heart. Can someone tell me, what the fuck is going on? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.